And welcome everyone to episode 4 of the Aspec
Hello.
podcast series. Excited to be
Hi.
here with Sleepy Bunny, and very graciously Kami Anya stepped in at the last minute to fill in, so I'm so grateful for your help today. Thank you so much. Let's start by introducing everyone. I'll start with you, Sleepy Bunny. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Oh, okay, sure. Hi, I'm Sleepy Bunny. I'm a non-binary VTuber. I use all pronouns, but you say them. I'm also a freelance artist, so yeah, me. What else do I need to introduce or say
Whatever
to
you'd
the
like to say.
audience?
Uh,
Oh, geez.
yeah, nothing in
I do.
particular. Yeah, go ahead. Now talk about your channel.
Oh, yeah. I mainly do art. I sometimes do games. I do like little rhythm games, some visual novels on the side. I also do some comics right now, currently Life and stuff. I just found out how to do the coloring, which is really cool. And I also have a store which I sell pride bun designs. Yay. They're called Remo buns. They are very discreet pride designs. I sent some in our Discord and it's really cool. So
Heck
yeah,
yeah.
check it out.
All right. Do you want to introduce yourself, Kamianya?
Yeah. So I'm Kamir Anya, they them pronouns. I am, oh gosh, see, non-binary Jewish disabled neurodivergent. Oh, I'm not in the right context. I have a roll off when I get rated
No
of
worries.
those. But yeah, I've forgotten which things I said and didn't say. I'm chronically ill. I said non-binary. I said queer, arorace, polyamorous. Lots of different aspects. Um, I am when it comes to streaming, which hopefully I'll be able to start doing again regularly. I am primarily an indie streamer. I love indie games, but I have also been known to do educational streams, especially around linguistic stuff or gender or sexuality stuff. I've done some makeup streams, and overall, even those pretty much any time I'm on, I'm super happy to discuss all sorts of aspects of gender, sexuality, uh, physical and mental disability, et cetera, et cetera. Basically, I try to hold a supportive discussion space. So the games could be the focus or the spark or the background. I'm also at this point, especially heavily focused on mutual aid and helping run events. So I have one coming at the end of this month, and then I'll be jumping right into helping another group run one at the beginning of October.
Fantastic. That's
I
amazing.
I completely forgot to save up my sexuality and romanticism. I'm sorry.
I'm sure we'll talk about it more in
Absolutely. We
discussion,
will be getting
like
That
into it.
is
as part of it for
true.
sure.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm personally demi ace arrow. I'm demisexual aromantic.
I have a lot of micro labels. I'll talk about those ones later.
Absolutely. And I'll
Absolutely.
and I'll say that I'm Tai, non-binary. I use they them pronouns. I am a PhD student studying climate science. Also Aro-Spec myself. And how this podcast kind of got started is I've volunteered for the last couple of years, and actually, as of a week ago, I am now a paid co-facilitator at a local 2S LGBTQI plus not-for-profit community space, and I help run a Ace and Arrow discussion group where we talk about many of these same issues with folks in the community. But I thought, something like this was missing from Twitch, and through the Ace and Arrow raid train that I was a part of in June, I've met so many wonderful content creators, including Ghost Girl, who's in the chat, a fellow member of the Fruity Stream team that I'm part of, and so many other people. And I thought it would be really wonderful to talk about some of these same issues on Twitch, because I have not found a discussion of this sort of nature present anywhere on Twitch that I'm aware of. So that's kind of how this Aspec podcast series got started. I'll just quickly shout out the Fruity stream team, if I can type correctly. There we go. So we are talking about aromanticism again today. Episode 2, we talked about, what it was kind of like a 101 of aromanticism. What is it? What are the things, that, what are some common misconceptions? We talked about aromanticism in media and the lack of it, and finished by talking about why there is no sort of cultural scale arrow memes, unlike the garlic bread memes for the ace community. Today, I think we thought it would be really interesting to delve into some of the issues really impacting the aromantic community in particular, including amatonormativity, and some of these things, queer platonic relationships and other Aro-Spec relationship related issues. And I'm really looking forward to discussing this with you today. Absolutely. And Ghost is also a fellow, Aro-Spec content creator, and was the founder of the Fruity stream team that I just became a part of as of this week. And it's really exciting to be a part of. So I guess the first order of business is to just remind folks what we're talking about when we say the term aromanticism. So the definition as we use it today refers to folks that experience little to no romantic attraction, as opposed to asexuality being, folks that experience little to no sexual attraction. And we delved into kind of the history of the term last time. So if you want to go back and watch episode 2, I've pinned the link to the episodes on the YouTube in the chat there. And just want to also briefly remind you of the Aromantic Spectrum Union for Recognition, Education, and Advocacy, aka AUREA. And so AUREA was founded in 2019 as a volunteer-run, online-based organization. And in the last couple weeks, they managed to fundraise enough to start the process of becoming a proper not-for-profit. So I'm really excited that AUREA is finally, moving towards becoming a not-for-profit, and hopefully that will allow them to, do a whole bunch more for the aromantic community. So I'm really excited to see, what they can do, now that they're moving towards not-for-profit status. Anything that either of you wanted to add to this before we kind of jump into the questions?
Nope.
Nope. I do. Congratulations to Aurea. I still don't know how to pronounce it. I'm sorry, but it's actually really cool to see something that is for like aromantics, like a nonprofit, because you usually see
Yeah,
one for like very like specific like aspects of the queer community. So
definitely.
it's really fun to see like something for our own.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
Because, we know Avon, has existed since 2002, but AUREA, only came about relatively recently. 2019 is not all that long ago, all things considered.
Yeah.
So it will be really exciting to see, what they're able to do once they gain not-for-profit status, and hopefully will become a little better known, because to be honest, I only found out about them, in 2022, because of their kind of, fly under the radar, limitations of being a volunteer-run online-based organization. So hopefully it will allow them to become, a little more well-known and, do a lot more cool things for the community.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So the last time in episode 2, when we talked about kind of the 101s of aromanticism, we looked at some commonly used microlabels and kind of terms under the aromantic umbrella. So I thought it would be kind of interesting to look at some ones that I had never heard of myself before. And so we've got a few here that I kind of picked that I thought could be interesting to talk about, or at least just mention some of these, micro labels to begin with. So one that I thought was quite interesting, well, I mean, I guess the first one, Apothiromantic, is what, I guess society would maybe assume all aromantics are. So Apothiromantic describes a person who does not feel any romantic attraction and is romance repulsed. So I guess, if I imagine society's kind of assumptions around aromanticism, they assume, much like, they assume asexuality, all aces are sex repulsed and don't feel any attraction at all. I could probably presume a similar assumptions, out there, that all aromantics are romance repulsed. So that's not true, but folks that do experience romance repulsion are, fall under the Apothiromantic label. That's always been a pet peeve of mine, the assumptions around, asexuality and aromanticism that are out there in society. And I try my hardest when I'm at Pride and, out in the community to dispel a lot of these myths. I use my time at the Pride Parade to make signs about, queer platonic relationships and Amatonormativity, and, really just hammer home that, hey, listen to us, we're here.
We're here and queer.
Exactly.
Yeah. Funnily enough, I did have like a conversation. I'm also an intern in a nonprofit. Um, and like my turnaround's like the 14th, whatever. But I did have a conversation with like a couple of people that were on or like in office, mainly because of like being asexual and aromantic. And I basically said like, hey, this is what aromanticism is all about. It's not like not everybody is like romantic, like repulsed by like being romantic and stuff like that.
Exactly.
I also have to explain like what QPR is, but that's gonna be like lower down the
Yeah,
script.
absolutely.
But mainly like all my talks when it comes to like being like aromantic have been during my internship and volunteering at my nonprofit. Some of them are aligned, especially when it comes to like me talking about it, because I don't really talk about like myself that much. So yeah.
Well, you are now.
This is the most I talked about myself.
All right. So one of I guess the second micro label I thought would be, an interesting one to talk about is, and I think this is how you pronounce it, Bellusromantic. So this describes individuals who may have an interest in what would be conventionally considered romantic things, but are folks that don't desire romantic relationships. And, I would assume that, again, society's assumption is, if you're romance repulsed, why the heck would you ever want, conventionally romantic things? But obviously that's not true about all, aromantics. So this one was kind of an interesting micro label to come across. So you might be interested in conventionally romantic things, but, you do not desire a romantic relationship.
I mean, I would like to be taken out on a dinner and be like,
Heck yeah.
serve roses. That seems
Heck
really
yeah.
nice.
Exactly. Exactly. And there's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely.
Whereas I have like ways in which certain things I'm like, yeah, totally, and like especially anything that's kind of public or like huge displays of romantic things. I'm like,
Yeah.
nope, nope, nope.
God.
Yeah.
So like
Yes,
Absolutely.
yes,
going out, being
I
taken out to
agree.
dinner, totally. The roses part, yeah, maybe not.
I just
My
like flowers.
my comet bringing me a mint plant, that was fun. So
Ooh, yes. Mint plants are very hard to
I
kill, and
like
they also have like so
killed it.
many like good properties.
Oh
You can
yeah.
have to use them like medically and also like herbally. I'm a
Yeah.
witch, so if you give me like any floral things, I'll just dry them up and just have them for later.
Yeah.
Yeah, they know that I really like at times putting mint in my black tea, so
Ooh,
Mint
that's
tea
really
is
nice.
great though. I
yes.
I
absolutely
love
love
mint
mint tea.
tea.
Right.
Absolutely.
Okay. Mm.
So the final, micro label I thought would be interesting to, look into a little bit is one called Desno-Romantic. And when I first came across it, I thought it was Desinoromantic, and then I thought about it. I'm like, no, probably Desno-Romantic is the correct way to pronounce this one. Um, and this one's kind of interesting, and maybe, I can relate to aspects of this. And it's refers to individuals who do not feel complete romantic attraction, though they may experience, forms of altruist attraction and or other forms of attraction. And some folks using the label may describe this to liking someone, but not enough to be in love with them. So I thought this one was kind of an interesting one to think about a little bit.
Honestly, I think I found myself with being Disney romantic. I was like, huh,
Absolutely.
this actually like sounds like me. And there's another micro label that my friend Devil Summer Marie, love her to bits, met her IRL once. She actually said that she's like um romantic, which means that you cannot tell the difference between platonic attraction and romantic attraction. And
Wait,
those two, I was like,
what
huh.
was the title you used or the name you used for it?
I think it's called queer romantic. I think that's how
Uh,
Qua
you
qua
pronounce
Qua
it.
romantic.
Romantic. It's Qua Romantic. That's
Yes,
me.
We
queer
talked about
romantic.
it last.
Yep.
We talked about it last
Yeah.
time.
Okay,
Yep. It's
okay.
Qua Romantic. I'm also Qua Romantic.
I think I am as
So
well.
it's yeah. And
Yeah,
although now I'm looking at Desi No Romantic, I'm like that kind of feels like it falls into the same place, and
Yeah,
I'm kind of glad to have Qua
yes,
Romantic that lets me just go
yeah,
throw up my hands and go WTF Romantic.
yeah. That's
So
why
I'm
I
not
like
gonna
that
sit
one.
there going yes or no.
Yeah.
yeah.
Got that one.
And
But yeah,
honestly, when I saw those two terms, I was like,
yeah,
wait, damn.
yeah,
And here I thought I figured out
yeah.
all about myself.
Having Qua let me stop figuring out and obsessing over whether or not I was Frey Romantic.
Same,
I don't know if you know
same.
what Frey Romantic is,
We've
or
I
talked
don't
about
think I
phrase
do.
so
No.
sexuality, but we haven't
yeah.
talked
So it's
about.
the same with
Yeah,
it. Yeah, it's the same. It's that idea that the more you know someone, the less attracted you are to them, either romantically or for Frey Romantic or sexually Frey sexual. Um, and I've definitely learned that my best, longest relationships work the best if I haven't known them beforehand. But
yeah.
also, I find
Really?
that like it's that big question about is the NRE stimulating romantic or uh is it actively Frey romantic where then it goes from
Mm,
that super intense actually romantic to um something well we'll talk about queer platonic but something that falls more under that queer platonic label.
yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
okay.
Yeah, so it's a big
Two.
lots of question marks that it was very very nice to be able to just throw my hands up and say screw it, it doesn't matter, I'm queer romantic, total top thing, let's just go with that.
That's fair. When it comes to like
Absolutely.
Freyromantic, I always feel like it's a little tragic.
Mm,
Um,
yeah.
like you become like you like this person, like holy shit, I like this person, like I want to be with them for the rest of their life. Then you go into it, then you're like,
Oh,
huh, I didn't like them as like I thought it would be, and actually felt like it feels tragic.
Mm-hmm.
it's weird. It's
Mm-hmm.
weird. It's weird. It's not fun to have that it kind of die down. It's strange
Yeah.
with a lot of different things.
It's
And
just like
yeah, I know this will be uploaded somewhere afterwards,
Yeah, so
right?
this will go up
yeah,
to
on YouTube.
onto YouTube, and then eventually it will go
Mhm.
to Spotify later when I
Ooh,
get a chance.
shiny.
Yeah, but no, it's a. I can tell you, having been in those positions, it's very weird. It's very strange, and like it creates some really weird things when you're talking about the word love, where
Mm.
I like I had many relationships that I feel really awkward saying I love you to my partner and had to stop. It wasn't until I got started to understand myself better on the aromantic scale what was going on, because I say I love you to my friends all the fucking time. How do you feel about swearing?
Fine with it.
Pretty
Absolutely.
cool.
Go for it.
I
Okay,
swear
just
like a
wanted to
sailor.
double check that, but like all the time. Um, and yeah, because I figured out that it felt like I was lying if I said that, but I couldn't really figure out why until I realized that there's that distinction of what I knew that they were thinking it meant versus the way it was feeling for me. And but yeah,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
thank you.
Like saying I love you means like a lot of connotations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I personally from my experience, like I don't say it at the
Yeah.
very start of the relationship.
Yeah.
Feels like if you
Right.
say it at the very start, it it gives like a lot of connotations
oh yeah,
and like
Yes.
oh yeah.
it's it's like we're not that deep yet
Mm-hmm.
until
Mhm.
a couple months later, I
Mm-hmm.
feel like.
Yeah, oh no, totally with that one. Totally agreed.
And also, generally, when you say "I love you," it's in a
Mhm.
romantic context, but there's all sorts
Yep.
of other types of love that we'll delve into that
Yeah.
aren't captured by what
Mhm.
society assumes you mean by "I love you." We'll delve into
Hmm.
Oh
this.
yeah. Yeah, like I said, yeah, I've
Absolutely.
never said it earlier in a relationship, and most of the time, but the main time I've said it the most is in the relationship where we're both aroes, and
Mm-hmm.
in the relationship where she needed to hear it, whether or not it felt like I was saying a thing that felt empty, but
Mm-hmm.
she wanted to hear it.
Mm-hmm.
So it was very
Mm.
strange because it's what she needed, but it like
Yeah.
took all meaning out of it for me.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Look,
Yep.
personally for me, like I
But
made a mistake of saying I love you early in relationship, like
Mm-hmm.
my two first ones, but it
Mm-hmm.
was them who
Mhm.
said it first.
Mm-hmm.
Then I said it back.
Mhm.
Of
Yeah.
like hey, if you said it to me, I'll say it back, basically, you know?
Yeah. And I had a
Yeah.
similar I had a
Mhm.
similar case in the only real, relationship I had lasted about a year. I felt like, my partner needed to hear it. And, at the
Mhm.
time, I didn't really know if I was, experiencing any sort of romantic attraction to them. Looking back, I don't think it was. I think it was just a close emotional bond. And so what we thought were, how we saw the relationship was from completely
Mhm.
different angles. And it
Hmm.
was
Yeah.
that relationship that helped me kind of come to terms with the fact that, hey, I am a romantic. I don't really experience romantic attraction. I don't really, feel the same sort of attraction that other folks do when
Yep.
it comes to romance. And it was
Yeah.
tragic how it ended because I broke off the relationship knowing that it just was not compatible. But
Mm.
Yep.
Yeah,
It's
but
necessary though
yeah,
yeah,
when you're in that place where it's
facts.
not compatible, like 100% it's necessary. Um,
absolutely.
like my big
Yeah.
breakup with somebody because of that was actually when I realized I was to top off all the weirdness, that I
Mm-hmm.
was polyamorous.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Um, yeah, which now, and this may come up later, I now use. I've discovered that relationship anarchy is actually the right description of my romantic slash friend slash attachment style to people. But uh,
Personally, for
but yeah.
me, like how I found out was not actually when I was looking into dating apps. This was like after like I think a couple months after my second relationship, it did play a role with me like not knowing that I was like aromantic in my like first two, but it did play like somewhat of a minor role in like my last two, like my last one in my current relationship. Right, let me keep PR. But I do want to hear more about like the relationship anarchy because I consider
Mhm.
myself like monopoly.
Yeah, I
Very
feel like.
interesting topic to
Mhm.
talk about and
Yeah,
something we'll
I feel like
explore.
we have that question actually coming up. Well,
Oh
Yeah.
and we
yeah, we're
yeah,
just
We'll
jumping the
delve
script.
into we'll
yep.
delve
Let's
into some of this.
yeah,
So
because we started getting into the
yeah,
microlabels and how they're useful and
yeah,
such, and especially how
exactly.
Quaromantic let us stop
Yeah.
asking for both, I think, me and Tyree.
Yeah, absolutely. And so do you find microlabels useful now, personally?
Oh, hell yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. Um,
Like,
go for it.
you can go ahead.
Oh, okay. So I have a lot of micro labels I use, and the thing is that micro labels for me, they help me know a number of things. The first is it's community. It's I'm not alone in this. There are others that also have this. There's a word for this that means I can't be alone.
Mm-hmm.
In some ways, it also really helps me understand to talk about it with other people. So, like with Quaromantic, it gave me, like I said, that ability to just kind of throw my hands up and say, you know what, it's weird, and everything ends up kind of falling platonic. So let me just say, be like, yes, I don't really know if I know or not, but this is where I think things fall much more easily and comfortably for me. With my aceness, that's a little different. Because there I do use my micro labels and they're very specific, being
Yeah,
lithosexual and agosexual, which
yeah,
uh those will could be brought up in an ace discussion. But
definitely.
right, and then those are the main places where I have really the micro labels. Um, but like I have the whole list of where things fall, like knowing that I'm bisexual but panromantic, where things and attractions do come up. Like but like overall with micro labels, they really are that, oh, okay, yes, I'm not alone. And with both aceness and aeroness, finding those right labels and finding those things let me go, yes, okay, I feel comfortable saying I am these things, which, especially with aceness, it had been for, I mostly saw what I guess would have been either demi ace and demi romantic, or I guess it would have been apothysexual,
Mm,
no
yeah,
sexual and sexually repulsed.
yeah.
Um, and that wasn't my experience, and so I felt really weird for a long time using the
Mm-hmm.
term ace.
Mm-hmm.
And then also because I thought, a bit even longer, it took me till I was 31 to find the term romantic, and that's when I really finally felt comfortable
Mm-hmm.
saying that I'm aro. It
Mm-hmm.
took till I had those terms and went, oh, okay, I do fully fall under this umbrella. I can fully talk about it and not feel like I'm an imposter. They take away that
Absolutely.
feeling of imposter. And there's that other level, and this was especially true when I found the word polyamorous, which again is weird with all the other stuff. I used to be more allo on both sides when I was
Mm-hmm.
younger. I think,
Mm-hmm.
but um, that there's also that level of I'm not broken. This is
Absolutely.
a real thing, and that comes with
Mhm.
all sorts of labels. And I'm very much a not everyone likes labels. I know that I will
Mm-hmm.
never put a label on someone who doesn't want one. But if you want one, I will go to, hell and back helping you figure out what the right one is for
Absolutely.
you. Um, so yeah, that's
Absolutely.
that's me on labels. Basically, yeah,
For
there's
sure.
Let's see.
community. I'm not broken. I can describe it and explain it to somebody else as well. Especially when it comes to like getting a new relationship or not. So yeah.
Totally. Absolutely.
That's true.
Mhm.
Personally for me, I feel like micro labels, I do I don't use them publicly, but I use them to like understand what I'm feeling. Like people don't need to like know the whole entire dictionary of like what I am. Like I do. We don't have to. So I mainly use micro labels as like a way to like build or like dive into like who I am as a person. But when it comes to like say like, hey, what's your sexuality? What's this? What is your romantic system? I go a little bit more basic, a little bit more broad that covers like a good chunk of like what I am. So that's why I use demi-romantic and also demisexual because of like how it basically it defines me, but not quite. And I can actually explain it before I bring up the dictionary and be like, okay, I'm quite romantic, I'm this, and that. The same goes with like
Sure.
my gender. I do identify as non-binary, but my actual gender is agender. I have none. I have no gender.
Absolutely.
It just basically disappeared when I graduated high school. We
Oh,
love to
wow.
see it. I had that epiphany when I was crossing the stage.
Wow. That's
Um,
amazing.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I
Mine,
also realized I was pansexual too.
yeah. I didn't figure it out until I was doing my degree on non-binary that I'm non-binary.
Heck yes.
But
I
I always had a very strong sense of my gender. Just uh I figured out that my idea of what a woman was really didn't match society's. And
Yeah.
someone pointed out that the way I was describing being, I think I that point I was doing something like non gender confirming cis gender.
Hmm.
And someone pointed out the way I described it felt like they're non-binary friends. And I tried the word out for me and
Hmm.
instant euphoria.
That's
But also
amazing.
I've realized that a lot of my definition of woman comes from someone who probably isn't one
Hmm.
after
um,
lots of conversations with my mom. So,
Yeah.
uh, and so yeah, it took me until my late 20s to actually put all those pieces together and just understand that my gender itself never changed, just by understanding of where it fit in society and
Yeah.
what that meant. Absolutely did.
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I feel like it's because like I'm pretty young. I'm younger than the both of you. I'm 20. I just turned 23 in July. I'm not sure how like people felt when I said my age. Oh,
All good.
but I figured out like majority of myself through high school and through college. I'm still in college, but we're gonna forget that. Um and I think when it comes to like being a romantic or aspec, that came last. And that's like basically like actually that's in the script right now. That's the upcoming question.
Yeah.
We love to hear it. See it.
It came
But
last for me also, just last for like I figured out being non-straight in 10th grade. I
I think
figured
that's
out
around the
more and more
time.
things later on. I figured out polyamorous at 19. I remember that one distinctly. I don't remember then to figure out the other ones, but non-binary was late 20s. Finally feeling comfortable saying asexual because I finally figured out my pieces of that was later 20s, and finding the word quaromantic was actually during a podcast stream I was on where
Heck
my one of
yes.
Wow.
where the host gave the word quaromantic, and I went, "Oh shit, that's me. Oh fuck." And that was like I said that way. Oh wait, no, that must have been for I started streaming at 33, so I guess I would have been 34. Ooh, not even early 30s, mid 30s.
Hmm.
Jeez. I keep forgetting how recent that was because it was,
Yeah.
like I said, I started streaming at just under 33, about to turn 33, and I'm now like 36 and a half. So that
I
was
s-
fairly
I
recent in it, but
started
yeah.
Just gonna
I
quickly
Um,
started
jump
streaming
in.
around
but
like
yeah.
18.
Sorry, what
And
was
Yeah,
that?
I just want to quickly acknowledge we had 2
Yes.
raids. Thank you so
Yeah.
much again to
oh,
Busby for the raid. And thank you so much to Chris Hangry, a fellow streamer on the Ace and Arrow raid train. Busby also was. Um, both of them raided. Thank you so much again for the raids to
thank
you
you for the
both.
raids.
If that
Thank you, thank
raid train
you.
happens again, I hope I hear about it before when
Absolutely.
it's not just I managed to miss it entirely until I
Oh,
saw like there were a few slots open at times when I was should not be awake.
oh, that
So,
Oh,
sucks. I'm
yeah,
so sorry.
I
next
think
time. It's
I
okay.
think
I'm just
I
glad it happened. When I
Absolutely.
started, can I just say really quickly, when I started, I said I started at 33. I was already knew I was ace and was very loud about it. One of my very first emotes was my tea emote, which if you saw earlier, and
Heck
I'll throw it in
yes.
again, has the ace teapot.
Heck
nice.
yes.
And at that point, like I said, I didn't even have a rose specified yet. But at that point, I knew like almost no other ace. Like
Hmm.
I knew no one else who was like openly ace until I met Diva a
Absolutely.
bit later. And it's made some. I know a lot of people who came out after I had been there a while, and I'm sure there's plenty of people who were there I just didn't know yet because I didn't have the right connections. But it's so cool going from feeling like I was the only one on on Twitch to being like, no, there's enough people that
Hmm.
have what was it, a week long train? That's amazing. So I was a little sad to have missed it, but I was more happy that it existed and being like, you know what, I'll get it next time.
I missed it because like I wasn't introduced to the server yet. But yeah, I also began streaming when I was roughly 18. I was 18 years old.
You make me feel
And
so old.
I make
It's
everybody
okay.
feel old.
Can relate.
All's good. All's good, to be clear.
I mean, I'm usually the youngest when it comes to like my friend group. It's only recently when I became like the middle to oldest in like at least like two of my friend groups. It feels weird, especially when I'm the eldest sibling in my own family. So it feels weird. Yeah.
I was
Now on to
instantly
the
one
next
of the
question.
oldest streamers in any group I was in. But yeah, so that was microlabels. Sleepy Bunny, did you speak about microlabels and your thoughts on
Yeah,
them?
I do believe that
Oh,
microlabels
right,
are
right.
essential to like people's discoverability. Personally for me, I use them for myself, but I use broad terms publicly,
Right.
like
Mm-hmm.
also the gender example. But you do you. Like if I don't know label, then I'll just look it up or have
Yeah.
you explain to me.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be like, oh, I don't know this anymore. It doesn't exist. Like,
Oh
Yeah.
God.
Exactly.
like some people are like these days.
Don't
Like
understand how many people in our communities do that.
Yeah, it's
yeah,
very
which is
frustrating.
unfortunate.
It's very frustrating. The
Yeah,
way I
but
see
like
it,
we're humans.
yeah, the way I see it, if the label helps you, use it. If it doesn't,
Exactly.
don't use it.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
perfectly okay.
Yeah. Very much so.
It's briefly okay. We learn to adapt and grow. The language is a ever-growing thing, and don't forget that.
Yup.
Exactly.
As
Exactly.
a linguist, I confirm that.
Absolutely. We got an expert here.
We got an
I have
expert.
a PhD in it.
Exactly. We got a PhD in the house here. Definitely an
Hell
expert.
yeah.
So
But I was about to say another thing I don't remember. So yeah, I already gave my
Just so
talk
real
on
for that.
microlabels.
awesome.
And so yeah, we've already talked a whole bunch about this next topic, but we should probably introduce it
Yes,
officially.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So I guess I'll introduce it as, when did you come to realize that you were Aro-Spec? And for you, how easy or difficult was it to figure out?
Well,
I think for me, I was in denial at first, mainly because of how like I was when it came to relationships. Like I was like, I really want to release not like mom like dad, like, oh, I really want to end relationship ASAP. Like, no, that's a terrible mentality to have. Please don't. But I felt like I was really a lovey-dovey person. I'm a hopeless romantic. So to like learn that I was in the aromantic spectrum, it kind of like this. It kind of devastated me a little bit. Like, damn, like I really
Mm-hmm.
wanted to like have all of these things that came in a relationship, but like I didn't really have the attraction for it. So I thought I was full on aromantic, and until I actually like had like a guy crush, a crush on a dude, which ended poorly. He rejected me, but ended poorly, just to say enough. I'm not gonna dive into that. But it made me reevaluate, being like, okay, I'm somewhere here, but I don't know where.
Mm-hmm.
Until I landed on being like demi-romantic, because it just suits it, like demi on demi. You feel me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
But it was like a very gray area for me. Then I full on like
mhm.
that took me like a couple of months to accept. So yeah, it changed like the whole entire way I saw relationships and stuff.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I talked about the fact that I didn't figure this out until my mid 30s for the Aero bit because I
Mm-hmm.
was trying so hard to figure out what the heck was going on. And the closest I had come up to was Freyromantic, which for anyone who doesn't know, Freyromantic means that the more you know someone, the less attracted to them you are romantically, which is a bit of a mind fuck. I once described things as my brain goes, ooh, shiny, 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 shiny. They're so shiny. Oh, I have it now. now it's not shiny,
Yeah.
which is shit for everyone,
Mm-hmm.
right? Both people involved, or all people, because I'm also somewhere in that polyamorous thing. Um, and there's also the fact that so friendships were always a thing that was more important to me for a large number of reasons, um, than being in a romantic relationship. Always. Um, and on top of that, there was a fact that just I did have romantic, maybe. I think. I don't know. Was that romantic? Was it just super strong? And again, there's that NRE phase of a relationship for me. I don't know if it was actual romantic
Mm-hmm.
feelings or just the NRE version of
Mm-hmm.
of queer platonic. I don't know.
Yeah.
Getting the term so like I figured out I was somewhere on the Aro spectrum because of those weirdnesses and
Mm-hmm.
because of the things and feelings I started realizing were different, but it wasn't until I call romantic that I'm like, "Oh, okay, there is this thing of you can't
Mm-hmm.
tell, aka WTF romantic."
Yes.
Like, it's very true, and it just let me say, "Oh, okay, I can stop.
Yeah. I
Holy
can
shit, I can just stop."
very much can relate to that. And,
Yeah, and that's
because
when
Yeah.
started being feeling comfortable saying "arrow." And also it really let me figure out that since I got that, any new relationships for me are not, you know, are queer platonic. I know to start them that way because I know that's where they're going to end up. Not, I think there's only been one since then, mind you, but there's still been one since then, and I know that's a thing, and I know that's a thing to say. So, like, I've had one or two occasions also of talking to someone who I knew was romantically interested in me and being like, "Hey, this is the thing. This is what it would be," and then being like, "Oh, that's not for me." And so it was better for both of us that way. I can finally say this is what it is.
mm-hmm.
So yeah. But
Yeah.
whew, took a long time. And like I said, when I was earlier, I think I was more aloe. So it's a thing that as I've gotten older has also
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I was ever fully aloe. I always think I was
Mm-hmm.
somewhere on the Aro-Spec.
Same.
But it wasn't really a thing I understood.
Yeah.
I didn't have the right words for until
Mm-hmm.
much, much, much later.
I can
So
so relate. I never
yeah.
come across the terms asexuality or aromanticism until, 5 or 6 years ago. Never heard the terms in my life. And it wasn't until, 2019, 2020, I think I started to realize I was ace myself, particularly because I fall somewhere under the gray umbrella of, asexuality. And when I figured that out and, was in this, my one attempt at a quote, capital R romantic relationship, that's when I really realized, oh wait, I don't really experience romantic attraction. And that's what kind of, got me thinking, yeah, maybe I am indeed Aro, and very much can relate to the, WTF romantic label as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like it took me like a long, long while. It like took me like I think it was like 2022 when I found out I was like on the aromantic spectrum, which was like there's like a lot like a big like time span. When I was 17, I realized that I was not cis, and when I was like I think I was like roughly like 15, I realized that I was ace. So it was
Mm-hmm.
like a really like long like gap between like learning that I was ace to learning I was aromantic.
And Busby brings up a really good point. They said, I think infatuation can, add a
Yes.
lot of confusion to the feelings. Am I just
Yes.
infatuated,
Yep.
hyperfixated on this person, or am I actually attracted to them?
Yeah,
Yep.
and that also like dives into like ADHD, which I also do too.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Oh my
Oh,
god, neurodivergency and
yes.
Yeah,
such.
Yes.
let's
Yes.
go. So like I just have like little like check boxes to see like
Mhm.
am I actually like into this person or is it just like oh they're new and they're paying attention to
Mm-hmm.
my interests and like paying
Mm-hmm.
attention to me Makes me realize I'm touch starved, but we're not gonna go into that. That's for my non-existent therapist. But it made me like want to have like little check boxes to see like if I'm actually interested in this person. Do I
Mm,
see like a life with this person before like jumping in,
That's
being like,
interesting.
"Hey, you're interesting. I like
Yeah.
you,"
The
and
do
and
I
stuff like
have a
that.
life with this person is something that has
Yeah,
never been part of any of my evaluations ever. So that's really interesting to me.
yeah, and like
Um,
I think
especially.
it's my first, fourth, and current relationship. It's a QPR. It's my first QPR. It also made me realize like, oh shit, I shouldn't be pursuing romantic relationships. I
Yeah.
should be pursuing QPRs instead.
Yeah, I know that feel, but yeah, like I said, I also have learned I can no longer. I've stopped after a large number of things. I think, especially things in college, I have stopped being able to try to plan properly for the future, which was good when I got MS. And again, everything I had been working towards changed. Oh dear God, lots of stories of here's my plans. Oh, that's not working. Here's my plan. But so I no longer can really think about the future, and I can be like my current partners. I don't see a future without them, but I can't really plan or think about what it might look like, which is weird. Um,
I think
especially since
because
one of
I'm
my
like,
partners,
oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
one of my partners is and my partner of like over 7 years now is what was it? Apothysexual,
mm-hmm.
but hyper romantic.
Mm,
Um, and so it's also very important for me. Also, like I'm very glad they have other partners as well. Like this was a as I figured this out, we've had a lot, a lot of conversations figuring out how this makes sense for us and how me being kind of quaromantic, aromantic spec fits
mm-hmm.
with their being hyper romantic and what this means, what this looks like. Like we've had so many conversations because of all of that. Very important set of conversations that we consistently keep having as things change or don't change and such like that. So but yeah, it's a weird situation to be in with that one.
Definitely.
Um, yeah, but
Mm,
yeah.
I
So now,
completely
like
forgot what I was saying.
um, I don't remember how this started, but one of my friends and I started watching things together once a week, every week through Discord. And in September 2 years ago, Z said like I feel like it's something stronger than friendship, and I had started to feel the same. And at that point, remember when we were both on that A spec.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and was in that place where I was like, nothing. I know now I should start any relationship as queer platonic. And so we talked, and it was very quickly. It was like, I feel this too, but here's the thing, and quite romantic. And he was like, or not quite romantic, and like queer platonic. And he was like, yes, perfect. That's exactly right. Let's go. And so we're coming up on 2 years. Um, but I have absolutely learned that anything going forward is that. But
Mm-hmm.
also, I'm a person where like this is I think starting to get touch on the next question, but because we're talking QPR, but also like with relationship anarchy, my friendships can be just as important, not more so than some of my romantics. Like I have some very long-term friends who, if somebody ever tried to make me choose, like if any partner tried to make me choose between this friend and them, they'd be out. I mean, if any partner ever tried to make me choose between relationships, they're probably out anyway. But
Period.
yeah.
We
Do
all
you
choose
want
up
to
in here.
do you want to just briefly mention? I don't know if everybody in the
Mhm.
chat might
Oh,
be familiar with relationship anarchy.
yes, I can talk about that. So
Yeah,
relationship
please do.
anarchy is one of the one of the things in a giant ethical non-monogamy umbrella. But the idea is that you take every single relationship, whether it be romantic, platonic, familial, something else entirely, on its own terms. And you basically get to, for each relationship, figure out what that means to the two of you. Really, there's throwing out the pattern book, throwing out the relationship escalator idea, but also like that idea that you know if you're monogamous, your one relationship is the most important. If you're polyamorous, maybe you have a primary, or um, I never was. I was always non-hierarchical, but that also that your relationships in general come over your friendships, right? So it's just everything is important, and they all stand on their own.
Exactly.
And
Absolutely.
that is, yeah,
So
that
I
is very much what works for me. I figured out, and it just, especially with the quadromantic
mhm,
weirdness, but with everything else as well, it's just the perfect. It learning about that made me go, oh yeah, that's what I do. Oh, that's a thing.
mhm.
Oh, I can work with that. Okay, I feel comfortable with
Yeah.
that.
And I
Again, one of those, oh, that's a thing. Oh, that feels right to me. Things we've been talking about.
and I think
Yeah.
everybody should read Andy Nordgren's A Short Instructional Manifesto for Relationship Anarchy. I think everybody, no matter what kind of
Oh
relationship you're
gosh.
in, should read that.
Ooh, okay, okay. Because like I never really got like the hierarchy of relationships when it came to like polyamorous. Like I never liked that.
Yeah.
Like one relationship is more important than the other,
Yeah.
even though we love each other equally. Like
Well,
what is that?
that the hierarchical kind of takes away that we love each other
Mhm,
equally thing. It's a I'm putting that like this person comes first, and for whatever reason that happens. Like um,
It
I'm non-hierarchical. I can't really explain it myself. So,
it feels weird because
but
like how can like it feels like it would like create like a rift, to be
mhm,
honest. Like,
yeah.
oh, I'll
So
always be like second place in this person's heart or something like
mhm,
you
that.
can only, yeah, you can really only do hierarchy with other people who are hierarchical. It
mhm,
really doesn't work to do with anybody else who isn't. It doesn't match well. Unless you have other ways. Like I did date somebody who is married and has kids.
mhm,
Um, our
Like
dates
I
oftentimes
understand that.
included his kids. And I knew that if I was in certain communities with him, I'd have to be his friend because there are places where he couldn't be out.
yeah,
But anywhere that he could
Mm.
be out, people, we were in a relationship. It ended. It's kind of question mark because he and his family moved multiple states away, and he is
Mm.
really bad at communicating for uh not in person. So it's kind of they came to visit for something for a party, and things felt really good again. But it's like we haven't had the chance to go. What are we now?
mhm,
Because question mark. But anyway, um, but it really has to be one of those everybody's okay with it, everybody knows where they stand kind of deals. Anyone not being okay with it immediately is
absolutely.
gonna go really poorly. So yeah.
Do you just want to briefly just remind folks what you mean by hierarchical versus
Okay.
non-hierarchical? Because I don't know if everybody here might know what that
Yep.
term means.
Okay. So in polyamory, there are people who what they have is they have someone that they refer to as their primary. Their primary is typically the person who's going to go with them on that. And I've talked about the relationship escalator. This really comes under that um Amatonormativity that we're going to talk about. But this is the person that's expected. This is the person that they're most likely to, if they're with other people who don't know they're polyamorous, this is the person they're going to introduce as their partner. This is the person they're most likely to live with. This is the person who comes first. Um, and sometimes they have other like sometimes all of their relationships come on end up in some sort of pyramid. Sometimes it's just one primary and then other secondaries below it who are all equal under it. It depends from person to person. Um, there and this is where so nesting partner is when you have multiple partners. Nesting partner is a person you live with. Um, Although then there's some questions of nomenclature, of terminology. When you, for instance, like I lived with a partner for multiple years. It's not that they were my primary. We just thought we would live well together and did for a while before we realized we didn't anymore. And it was more like we were dating. We happened to be roommates who were dating rather than we were specifically living together as partners. So question mark as to whether that counted.
Yeah,
Nomenclature can
absolutely.
be weird,
Mm.
but yeah, nesting partner is a partner you live with, um, and non-hierarchical means that nobody is above anyone else in your relationships.
Definitely.
That but there's typically still, if you are still labeling that as polyamorous rather than relationship anarchy, there is still the idea probably that your relationships will come over your friendships. So,
Absolutely.
Okay then.
yeah. Can you tell that I was a teacher for many years?
Well, you're good at
Hmm.
explaining, so.
Thank you so much for delving into that, because I haven't had a
Yeah.
chance to delve into, relationship
Mhm.
anarchy, hierarchical
Yeah.
versus non-hierarchical. So thank you very
Yep.
much for chatting about that.
Yeah. I also helped run a polyamory meetup for a number
Heck
of years.
yes.
Only stopped because of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So,
COVID
yeah.
did a lot of things a disservice,
Yep.
sadly.
Oh yeah.
We love COVID.
However,
But yeah.
I would
Anyways,
say
so
that if it weren't for that forced, think about myself for 2 years, I may not have actually come to the realization that I was Aro and I was Ace and I was eventually non-binary. So
that I know that for a lot that's true for so many people. It's interesting. Like, yeah, I figured out my flavor of Aro during COVID because that's when I finally heard the word Freyromantic. But like I said, I figured them all later in life, but
mm-hmm,
figured them all out before the pandemic.
mm-hmm,
So it's just one of those interesting what leads to what causes
yeah,
what makes you
That
think
is
about them.
true.
And also just the fact that especially with you know sexuality, romanticism, and gender, all of these can also shift. You know, sometimes things aren't like there's that whole it's just a phase thing where the truth is these things shift. Sometimes they're not, sometimes they are. But it doesn't make it less true or less accurate if ends up being a phase, right?
yeah,
Like
Exactly.
I said, I was more allo when I was younger. It wasn't more valid than me now or less valid than
no,
me now just
absolutely
because
not.
it changed. It's
Mm-hmm.
just, yeah, I don't, yeah. So I've come to be like, wait, no, just a phase isn't accurate. But
No.
things do phase and things do
Mm-hmm,
change over time.
mm-hmm,
So yeah. Um, I also think that every relationship, no matter what it is, um, romantic, platonic, even platonic, monogamous, non-monogamous, like there's a lot to learn from queer relationships and especially
absolutely.
not non-monogamous relationships because there's a level of communication and being on that same page that is
Absolutely.
right. So like I know so many monogamous relationships that had issues because they were both monogamous and never talked about what that meant to them and just assumed they were on the same page. Where being polyamorous, especially with relationship anarchy, like I can never assume I'm on the same page with page as someone. It's always consistent and changing conversations. And I really think
Yeah,
that that's a thing that monogamous relationships should have too. I don't think any one style is better than another
no,
overall,
Mm-hmm.
you know, but toxic monogamy is definitely a thing.
yes,
And
absolutely. So
speaking
many
of
Ooh,
examples
actually,
of it.
goodness.
yep. And yeah, so I think that also we're definitely coming into question 5. So if you want to officially introduce that, we are
Absolutely.
definitely been talking
So,
about it.
um,
Yeah.
we've been talking about, when did you come to realize you were, Aro-Spec? How easy or difficult was it for you? And we talked a little bit about, what Aro-Spec relationships mean to you. So, question 5 is really delving into some of the, things that we might have kind of hinted at. And this one of the things is, what is Amatonormativity? And thank you so much, Chewy Coffee, for the raid. Welcome on in. Let
Jeez.
me give you a shout out.
Oh, 3
Three
raids.
raids. I've never had 3
Let's
Wow.
raids
go.
Awesome. Let's
before.
go.
Let's
Oh,
go.
we're just switching questions, so it's a good time.
Absolutely.
Welcome,
We were
welcome,
just
raiders.
we've been
Welcome.
talking about. Thank you so much to Chewy Coffee. Welcome on in, everyone. I'm Ty EYE, content creator, PhD student here on Twitch. Recently started this Aspec podcast series where we've been talking about all things Ace and Aro-Spec. And today we're talking about aromanticism and Aro-Spec relationships, and we're about to chat about a term that is really important to talk about in the Aspec and particularly the Aro-Spec community, amatonormativity. So amatonormativity is a term coined by, I think, Elizabeth Brake in her book Minimizing Marriage Morality and the Law in 2011. And in it, Elizabeth describes it as the assumption that everybody desires a coupled romantic and monogamous relationship. So, a lot of things to unpack there. And if you're Aro-Spec, you definitely don't want a romantic relationship. And Amatonormativity is also really harmful to folks in the poly community because Amatonormativity says that if you don't desire a coupled romantic monogamous relationship, well, you must be lonely. Then what the heck are you doing? And that's a really problematic take.
Oh,
That's
How
really
you're lonely
problematic.
with multiple people, like
Yeah, exactly. So,
I there's so many things like so okay. I am way more active than I should be on one single subreddit, and it is a subreddit called the Best of Redditor Updates because I like reading sometimes the Am I the Asshole things and such, but I want to know what happened next. I can't just and it stops there. I get itchy.
real,
Is a
real.
good way to say it. But so um some of the things that come up, polyamory comes up sometimes, and of course because it's on Reddit, it's almost always a negative experience, and
yeah.
most often it's that couple tries to open their relationship because one person is like, I want to open it because they have somebody in mind already. Like that's already a situation that is almost never ever gonna work. I'm sure there's some
Yeah,
exception that defines the rule, but um pretty much an end thing. But so I have a lot of conversations with people there, uh, because there's a few of us who try to make sure that people really realize, no, remember, we know this about relationships in general, that we're getting I'm forgetting the right wording. So it's we're only seeing the negative. So why can't you understand about non-monogamous ones? Um, but some of the things I don't really tend to get lonely as much as I get people who are polyamorous want make it their entire life. It is their
Mm-hmm.
hobby. It is their personality. I
Mm-hmm.
get the people who are polyamorous try to get everybody else to be polyamorous, try to manipulate people into being polyamorous, which ethical. There's the
Yes.
word ethical for a reason.
Yes.
It's not consent
yes.
if it's not consent unless it's enthusiastic consent. Same
Mm-hmm.
with BDSM.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Like sure, BDSM you might have things that you define instead to use, but it's still enthusiastic consent or it's not consent.
Exactly.
Manipulation
Facts.
into it is not enthusiastic consent.
Absolutely
I
not.
have a lot of rants about
Mm-hmm.
that. You can probably tell, but yeah, very much it's that those are some of the ones. I don't think I've ever No, they have encountered the lonely because the lonely idea is that you must be so lonely if you're reaching out for people like this,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, Whereas I'm just like, I don't want to make one, like, it's so much healthier for me and my
Mm-hmm.
relationships that no one person has to be my everything. Are you kidding me?
Exactly.
Like, I
Exactly.
don't,
Yeah.
but, and yeah, sure, it does take, not calculating, calendars and communication and such. But like I said, communication is so important about it.
Yeah,
But,
and like communication is so important in like
mhm,
every single thing you do, both platonic, monogamous, polyamorous, like, and there's a lot of people, especially
chat.
in my generation, the Gen Zers, don't know how to communicate at all. And it's getting a little bit annoying to a point where I see it literally everywhere.
I mean, when you're young, you don't communicate properly. I'm sorry. Like, I know this is me being elder queer here, kind of thing, but it's one of those things is you learn how to communicate as you go through life, as you relationships. It's very hard to start that way. And yeah, there are things you can do to learn it earlier, but it's one of those things that happens is you make mistakes in relationships, you make mistakes in life, you learn what the right kind of communications are, you learn the right kind of relationships are. Sometimes you're lucky and you figure it out really early, like coming out of of high school. Sometimes you don't. But but that is one of the things that it's not just your generation, is that your generation is younger and hasn't learned some of the stuff that we did, but we were the same. I was the same in my 20s, believe me. I was the same in my early 20s. So,
That's true.
yeah.
That's true. It's just like I'm a little bit more harder
Mhm.
Mhm.
on like my generation because we have the internet.
Yeah.
We have
That's
the
fair.
internet.
Yeah. Also, quick heads up,
Sprinkle
I'm going to be
magic
making
fairies.
some weird sounds and going cat because my cat has decided that she needs love and is pressing me like against my chair to get like full
Uh,
body pet. And it is a weird position, so
oh
I
no.
apologize if you hear me making weird things or saying cat. I'm talking to her, and that's what is happening because I
No
can't
worries.
properly reach my
No,
mute
no
button.
worries. Currently, my cat
Absolutely.
is just like
Just
sleeping
wanted
on
to
the bed.
make sure you knew what that was, and that it wasn't
Sounds
say me
good.
responding if you hear one of those weird things.
No
But yeah,
worries.
No, you're
so
good.
there's also the fact that um with it, so I've talked about the relationship elevator or escalator. So to be clarify what that means, because that's really important. It's a big part of um amatonormativity is the idea you're going to have find your person together, you're going to move in together, you're going to, well, there still is some of that, you're going to buy a house together, but that's going because of, pricing, but that's a different
Yes.
story.
A
The
house in
living
this economy?
together, yeah, the living together and working towards permanent housing together, whether that's you're renting together, you're buying a house,
Mhm.
whatever that ends up looking like for, depending on where you live and how much you actually
Yeah.
manage to earn. um but uh then that you have a kid together, that you travel, like there's these levels of what a relationship is supposed to look like. And now we have these interesting things where, just both because of price and because we're starting to like acknowledge more things, like divorce is much more accepted now than it used to
Mhm.
be. um there are things that are starting to make people understand that that's not necessarily right. And again, a lot of it is price. People can't really afford kids the same way. It's much harder. But it also means that, like, my mom's parents had two kids because they were supposed to have two kids. They didn't actually want kids. They were supposed to have kids, and so they did,
Mhm.
right? So there's similarly people who do that when it comes to being in a romantic situation, that
Yeah.
I'm supposed to be in a romantic situation, so I am going to settle for this person because they're interested in me, and and we work together, I guess. Like there's a lot of people who will settle. Sometimes they're settling even though they are romantic, they are allo. Um Sometimes it's a like there's it happens for everyone. But the idea that, like, if you get to be too old, you've missed the boat
Mhm.
is right, causes people to push for it earlier.
Yeah.
I've
With
never heard that
sexuality,
saying.
oh yeah, miss the boat is just, you don't manage to get on it, a thing that's happening, and then it's too late, right? But so it's that idea that if you don't have a relationship by certain ages, you're too old now, or you're tarnished, or yada yada yada.
And you'll be doomed
There's
to be
mm,
lonely for the rest of your life.
I
right,
shall be doomed to be a
right.
wizard at 30. Gotcha.
um Sexuality rise is that idea that you should not be a virgin after certain ages. Like, oh dear God, the way it took my
Oh.
own mental
Uh,
situation, like, right? Like my own
uh,
mental brain dealing with that. It took a very long
Mhm.
time to get to the point where I realized that, as being older, I am completely okay with that. That
Yeah.
I don't want sex, that I don't
Yeah.
like, well, that, oh God. That when I become sexually attracted to someone, when they return it, it starts to go away.
Yeah.
That one's a mind fuck.
Mhm.
My set of things, that ego set. So for anyone who doesn't know, lithosexual, or litho means that when it's returned you lose it. Ego means that it's like you want it hypothetically, or like you might be sexually attracted but you don't actually want to be involved
Mhm.
yourself. So like
Mhm.
in any fantasies I have a standard character. I don't actually feature in any of them myself,
Mhm.
right? And litho and ego together are weird and take a
Yeah.
while to figure out that that's what's, oh my God, that's a weird one. I
Yeah.
can
so
tell
so my
you.
love of 2D
Um,
anime men falls into that
and
too.
then add Yeah, and then the weirdness, like I like to say I fall in the liminality in betweens in everything in life. I
Yeah,
swear.
yeah,
But again, it's that idea that you shouldn't be a virgin after an age that will make people sometimes push for a thing before they're ready.
yeah,
And it's same, it's that committing to somebody and maybe pushing towards marriage, even though it's not what you want or you're not actually attracted to that person, or especially for people who have been in abusive families, that rushing to get out and, oh, this person treats me better, where it can still be very toxic. But yeah, it just that it pushes that um sometimes marriage is your way out. um or like I have a friend who, thank God, it worked out for her, but she got engaged. I can't remember. I think she got engaged at 6 months and married at under a year. I don't think it was married at
Jesus.
6 months, but it might have been. It was very quick, partly because being in an Orthodox Jewish community, like the way to leave your parents. And she was I think 26 at this point, and getting out of your parents' house, it's getting married, and also that's expected, and you start getting a lot of flack if you're not married at certain ages. And luckily, they seem to be still very, very happy. I think they have kid number 3 on the way, and like, all right, it's very clearly this worked. Thank God, because she's like my twin. But there's definitely places where it doesn't. So it causes so much problem for so many people at so many different levels. And then it's that, when you don't have those feelings, I talked about the feeling of feeling broken, right? If you don't know that asexuality or aromanticism is
hmm
a thing, and you're pushed and this is all you see, and you're supposed to want this
hmm
thing, whether that's when you're in a relationship, you can't turn off the other people are attractive romantically
hmm
and sexually and such, those polyamorous feelings, non-monogamous feelings, that can be one way, or the I don't feel this at all, both of those. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Per Personally, like for me, let me like get my all my like thoughts and feelings together. Personally for me, like I did not grow up like that. And I'm not sure if it was like my family and like being like, yo, like you don't have to like follow like I didn't get no like questions of like, do you have a boyfriend? Do you have a girlfriend? When you're gonna get married? When you're gonna have kids? Like I never had those questions come up with me when I was growing up. Like of course there's like something you see on the TV, the quote unquote heteronormative like standard, obviously. But I never like had like that would be put on me. But it's more or less like I've been taught like individuality, I've been taught to be independent, don't rely on like anybody like I've been taught that instead. So the fact that I keep seeing like jokes by like, oh my God, like during Thanksgiving dinner, be like, oh my God, like when are you gonna get married? When are you gonna be divorced with your last husband, Karen? Like I never had never had that. I never had that in my life. Like it's very foreign to me.
yeah, very
I
nice.
get asked all the time from, my grandparents, so when are you going to find yourself a nice, lovely, and it's assumed to be girlfriend, because let's
Yep.
get real, heteronormativity.
Yep.
And I've just played oh yeah, I'm still in school, and I've played that as long as I possibly can. But one
Nice.
of these days, it's eventually that card's not gonna be able to be played anymore. And I'm very much not looking
See,
forward to that game.
Oh,
I don't have to deal with that because my grandparents are dead.
Oh,
yeah. My one remaining grandma at this point cannot remember anything from 5 minutes ago.
yeah,
Um, yeah, but that's a different thing.
yeah.
The interesting thing is, so of my partners on one side, on my mom's side, so not partners, but cousins on my mom's side of the family are both older than me. So the fact that they were, married and had kids first isn't really that big a surprise. I'm the oldest by like 5 years of my dad's side of the family, and the next oldest is now married, and I believe can't remember if she's actually expecting now. I don't think so. No, she's not. I met her, saw them recently. The next oldest is engaged. Youngest is still single, and you know what? I would not be at all surprised if he was Aro-Spec.
Mm-hmm.
Um, or Aro-Spec, based on just like it doesn't seem like he has any expectations of having a partner anytime soon. But I haven't had that specific set of conversations with him. So question
Yeah.
mark. But there's definitely that expectation and that weirdness, and that um took a long time for me to be okay with the fact that I realized marriage wasn't something I even wanted at all, right?
Yes.
Um like, oh, I started thinking about marriage as at what I would want for one at some of my friends' weddings, and it never really was there solidly of any kind. More of a, well, I guess I wouldn't want this, so it would look like this. Um and then with the whole, polyamorous thing, and realizing I didn't want to put any of my, partners above each other, of course, then marriage doesn't work. But then there's just that whole, oh, well, why is this person my partner? And this is the thing with queer Platonic is, why is this person my partner if I don't feel something for them romantically? And the answer is, in some ways, this is a distinction we agreed on together, that we are partners. And what does that mean? Well, it could mean different things to different people. But for me, it means that there is that extra level that's there. That's more than just friendship. But just friendship is a poor terminology, because there is no such thing to me as just friendship. Friends are
Yeah.
super important, super lovely,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Um, but also it's again, um, I've made this choice, and that means they mean something more to me. And it does feel that way too, because we've made this choice. It's a weird, weird thing to try to explain to
Mm-hmm.
somebody who is allo. Like,
Yes.
I've had this conversation so many times, and so many people don't get it. They're like, but why is it different than a friendship? I'm like, because we decided it is. Like,
Personally
straight
for
out.
me, personally for
Hmm.
me of how I describe it, because
Hmm.
I'm currently in a QPR
Hmm.
with my partner.
Hmm.
The way that we got into the QPR, is because like we've been friends for like so long. We've been friends since like my freshman year of high school and their sophomore year of high school. And then like one day I had it epiphany being like, yo, are we a QPR? And then like I texted them that. Then I called them saying like, yo, are we a QPR? And we looked at the definition and like damn, we are by definition. So we became partners. That's literally what happened. Like I was like, damn, moved up
One way
again.
to do it for sure.
That was one way to do it. But also like the way that we navigate, it's just basically because like we're also long distance as well. So sometimes we call each other up, seeing like where we're at, stuff like that. They even came down to Florida for my birthday. Hi, Floridian. No, I'm not okay if you're asking that. But
Yeah.
we went had a little date and stuff like that. We went to SuperCon and stuff and like did really fun stuff before they had to go back to their state. But but still like how I view and navigate my QPRs is that yeah, there's like some romantic stuff that we do with each other. Some them are friend stuff. And whenever I mention like, oh yeah, we're together now, I keep getting the exact same answer. Finally, from both our parents, our friends, second ex. Like it's really like abysmal,
Hmm.
but it is what it is. So, like,
Um,
yeah.
oh, I
I
had
like how we
another
skipped
one.
over like point B.
That's all right. I'll just
Yeah.
respond to a few
Oh.
things in the chat here.
Hmm.
So I think um, what have we seen? Yeah. So we've talked about. I think Ghost Hugs incoming mentioned they realized they didn't want to get married long before they realized they were ace or aro.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah.
Whereas for me, my parents continually told me the thing that drives me, really gets me going. You just haven't found the right person yet, is what I'd been told for years and years and years. And,
Funnily
they still
enough,
try to gaslight me from time to time. They're getting better. But because of
fu-
that, I just experienced, I've thought, hey, maybe down the road, and that down the road continued to get further and further down the road. And I finally realized, hey, I'm Aro. It's not going to happen. But because it's things like that, it took me a really long time to be comfortable about it.
funnily enough, like I only been told that once. Like, oh, you haven't found the right person yet. I only been told that once. And when it comes to like marriage, like me and my partner, like we're talking about it and stuff like that, like there's a high possibility we might get married. And like yeah, like oh the kitty is at it again.
Sorry.
Guys, we
I
She's just
love
yelling
the,
at me, so I had to
yeah,
pick her up. Um,
Ghost
but
Hugs
yeah,
Incoming
yeah.
said something really hilarious. They said, have you considered getting a pet named The Right Person? Absolutely.
do it.
That's
That
hilarious. I
Please
love
do
reminds
that.
me
it. That's
so much of
I keep like doing the joke of like, here's your grandkid, and it's my cat.
so
Somebody came to a meeting recently wearing a t-shirt that says DILF on it, except it's damn, I love felines. And I'm like,
Nice.
yes, I love that shirt.
Yes,
um
I love that. I
so
know that one sick that is like that's similar to like Man I Love Frogs, Mill.
Yeah.
wow, that's hilarious. Um, so yeah, I had a horseback riding instructor back when I was younger who wanted to get a horse called I don't know for every time when she would every now and then she'd let riders pick what horse they wanted to ride that day. So she needed one that was like I don't know for that. So I've gotten a lot of weird things over the years. I've gotten the I can't be bi because I've only been with men when I was still with my first boyfriend ever at the time I got that one. I've been told that I must be lesbian because bi doesn't exist, but I was clearly, pinging that person's gaydar. Uh, I've been told about so I've known pretty much my entire life I didn't want to have biological kids. I want to be a parent, but I used to think I want to adopt. Now I'd still like to foster. It's probably not in my cards because of my health, but
Mhm.
yeah, I'd still love to be. And hey, at least I got to teach little kids for years, so that was cool. But I've always known I didn't want a kid of my like a biological kid. And my mom never wanted a kid until and my dad was okay with that. And then apparently, like when they'd been married about a year, when they were 30, my mom and my dad ended up like turning to each other and they say the conversation went, "Hey, I've been thinking." Me too. They don't remember who started it, who said which part, and then later realized that they should actually check with each other that they meant they wanted a kid, which is what they meant. But so my mom for a long time thought I might change my mind there about having my own biological kid until I finally was like, hey, I finally figured out that's also a non-binary thing.
Mhm.
According to my body, I shouldn't be able to reproduce that way, and that's
Mhm.
part of when she stopped with that one. Um, but let's see. I don't remember specific why don't you have a partner? When will you? Partly because, well, let's see. I did have partners for a while, and then I figured out a lot of this. Well, like I said, I have a nearly 7 year, or no, not nearly. I have a just over a 7 year relationship with someone. Um, and I've had relationships for a while. Just they look different, and now I understand, and they look even more different. Um, but I've still definitely gotten questions about marriage and kids.
Yeah.
And being a teacher who's good with kids, the number of parents who ask me about my partner, who asked me about my kids, who asked me, I got, if a parent hadn't ever met me, it was a toss up between whether or not I'd get Mr. or Mrs. because my first name is somewhat androgynous, just by sheer luck, because I've been able to not change my name because my name works for me.
Mhm.
Um, because of that. But yeah, so hands question mark whether I get Mr. or Mrs. But I'd almost always get Mrs., not Ms. And if a parent had met me, I almost always got Mrs.
Mm.
Which again, and students similarly would default until I'd remind them no. Depending on, and then when I finally got my doctorate, oh my god, when I finally got my doctorate and could just
So
introduce myself
better,
as
so much
Doctor
better.
H.
It went so much
Yeah,
better.
I hated
absolutely.
having to gender myself in the many
Yeah,
years that I figured it out, but
yeah.
um, considering it was also the fact that it wasn't even just for the kids. A lot of the kids would have flown with it no problem. It would have been the issue of the parents. Like once I had a kid tell me, because I had talked about, I don't even remember why it had come up in class, but she had told me at one point that she was really glad that her parents didn't know, because they would have pulled her out, out of my class if they knew that I was queer, and she was really, really glad to have me as a teacher. So like and when it turned
Aw.
online, oh
Aw.
my god, like I saw students with walls of crosses behind them. There was one kid who had the thin blue line flag above them. There was one
What's
kid who said
what's
when
the
he
what's the thin blue
uh
line?
it's the
Is let me ask.
supporting cops one.
Oh,
It's a flag that supports
Okay.
cops. Yeah. I so let's see. I had a kid when talking about, like, we were talking about The Hobbit and talking about the idea of people being good or evil, and the fact that, it's much more black or white in The Hobbit. So I was asking the kids, who do you think of? And one of the kids who had been really trying to get to speak, which meant I couldn't shut down his answer once he gave it, or like say bad answer or something, said that he thought of Trump when he thought of good. And again, this was a middle schooler, so also I knew he was speaking from, more his parents, and I wanted him to learn how to read and make decisions for himself. But yeah, but in any case, like there's no way I could have been that I could be loudly or even subtly sometimes queer. Um,
yeah, no kidding.
yeah, because of, they were in their homes with their parents, and at least like I could be actually maybe not loudly but very specifically ADHD and have anxiety and connect with students
Hmm.
those ways and talk with a
Hmm.
lot. I had a lot of parents who got my opinion, as someone who had grown up with these things, about how, what do they think what do I think they should do with their, in these situations.
Definitely.
Um, so
Mhm.
yeah, but yeah, so I've gotten a lot of weird subsets of that depending on the context. um,
Definitely.
and but yeah, that thing where parents almost always would directly go to Mrs. no matter what, because I was, even when I started and I was just 21, but especially once I was in my mid to late 20s and then in my 30s, like there was a strong assumption that I must be married with kids of my own. So yeah.
I think it's because like I'm younger, so
Yeah.
therefore like I'm not gonna
Hmm.
have those questions yet.
Yeah.
But like
You've
Yeah.
got that, and the fact that you're figuring yourself out now, and the
Yeah.
fact that there are a bunch of just differences in as you mentioned, being Gen Z, the way that things are growing up, and the way that,
Yeah.
you know there a bunch of parents are less likely to, just the way we're, millennials are in our 30s and 40s.
Hmm.
yeah, that
And
that might be also true.
right,
Totally.
Because
and
like
so, mhm, and understand that, well, kids are hard. So a
Hmm.
lot of parents are going to stop asking about kids, and, getting a house and such, because we actually understand that those things aren't necessarily doable. Now, there still
Absolutely.
might be,
yeah.
yeah, there's probably still going to be expectations until we can get proper representation out there. But the expectations of what it looks like to be in a long-term relationship are changing because of the financial changes,
Yeah,
Definitely.
that
which is
is true. That is
a
true.
weird thing to look at and realize is the reason for those changes. But
I mean, how like
yeah.
me and my partner we were talking about kids. So my stance on kids are like fuck them kids unless they're my own. Like my circus, my monkeys until it's really not my circus, my monkeys. While my partner is more or less like a kid person. They love kids.
Mhm,
Like I don't mind having a little bugger, but like we were also talking about like financial stuff as well because like we know
mhm.
we know that we're not gonna be financially stable at all. Like, especially because like I'm Floridian. If you know, you know. Like, it's so hard to get an
Mm,
apartment here that is
yeah.
under 1,000. Fuck under a
Uh,
thousand. Like a regular apartment right
Uh,
now is like $2,000.
oh, I
so
can
I
relate.
live in I'm in Massachusetts, Boston area. I can't leave this area because my care team is here, and they're so
Mm,
good, and I have
Hmm.
enough shit going on that I really need access to this. I can't leave this team yet.
Yeah.
Eventually, I'll hopefully move back near my parents, but like not in with, but near. But my studio apartment is 1,700.
Yeah. It's about the same
So
here.
yeah.
And
Um. Oh,
in
and I was
Toronto.
lucky to get this. Like, if I was on like I'm 15-minute drive away from public transportation. Um,
mm.
my partner is in a one bedroom for I want to say something like 2,500.
Yikes. That's
Yeah,
horrible.
and if they
That's such
wanted
horrendous.
parking, would have to pay more.
Park.
Like
Absolutely.
I would say like another 100 a month or something plus.
See, I
So
cannot do that.
No.
yeah,
Like
like
I'm still trying to like
ridiculous.
get through like college. Like
Yeah.
I swapped my major from graphic design to like marine biology.
Yeah.
Now, if I had to pay like the standard like for
Mhm.
Florida while going to university, while trying to get a car, I would probably combust. I will combust actually.
Yeah. Um, but it's what was I about to say about it? But like it's the interesting thing also is now there's that like there's a lot of joking, especially in the polyamory community, that now people have to go to polyamorous in order to afford a place together.
To
And
be
also
honest,
like
I'm more than willing to
Mhm.
do that.
Yeah. I mean, you can also like the truth is live with friends is fine if you find friends you live with well. But the joke is and there's also the thing with polyamory and that joke is the who has which subscription, who has Hulu, who has Netflix, who has Disney Plus, right?
I mean,
So there's
I
like
got Netflix.
yeah. But so like
Exactly.
there's the interesting things where um there's also so like the other thing about blah, blah, blah. I have to keep having to look it up to say it right. Amatonormativity
Yeah.
is the like quote unquote coolness or edginess of being different. Um, which is a weird one. But so like there's people who go towards that poly or who go towards different looking relationships because they think it's cool, which is not the reason.
No.
Yeah,
And then
it
you get a
shouldn't be
lot
the
of
reason.
poor representation in media where like the main
Unfortunately.
representation of what polyamory looks like, for instance, is either a closed triad or a partner with their unicorn, which is terrible because most of us unilaterally condemn unicorn hunters because it is unethical to the nth degree. And
Yeah,
often God, I have so many things. There's the
I
one penis policy being is also terrible for many,
what?
many, many reasons. So the one penis
What?
policy is in polyamory. There's oftentimes, especially when couples are just trying it, a rule that the woman, especially constraints a woman, can only date other women. It's the idea is the woman is dating because she's bi and can only date other women. Which number one is hugely transphobic because it's that
Mm-hmm.
assumption that penis equal, that women will not have penis and yada yada, but it also is hugely homophobic and
Mm-hmm.
biphobic because it lessens those relationships and assumes that those sapphic relationships are less than a relationship would be with another man.
Yeah,
Meanwhile,
and it's
oftentimes that man is, I believe, allowed to date other people because oftentimes he's straight and doesn't want to be with any other men. But yep, I've
Very
got
good
my
point.
water. I've been
wow.
Yeah.
drinking, I promise. But yes, hydration
You've
is
been drinking
We
important, everyone.
water.
we may
You've
want
been
to take
drinking
a
But yeah,
break
water.
so
soon.
there's veto. Oh yeah, the idea of veto rules again. Couple
Veto
privilege.
rules.
Veto rules are a thing in polyamory where you and your partner can veto something or someone. Which is again very
Is
unhealthy, but it's typically a couple's privilege.
Mhm.
And couple's privilege is where you start with a couple and they open typically for one person or sometimes they'll date separately. More often it's they open and start looking for their third, but they rank higher and get to especially when it's not a triad they're looking for. There's that level of you can veto who your partner goes to date. That's vetoing. Um, which again,
This is something new for me because
it's
this
not
is very,
healthy.
very new.
Yeah.
That's probably why I didn't learn it.
Yep. Yeah, which is good. Like the fact that you don't know a bunch of these really unhealthy and not good and toxic rules is actually a plus. This is
Absolutely.
the yeah. This is the I've been polyamorous, like known I was polyamorous since I was 19, so nearly a full half of my life, and have been heavily in that and in those conversations for years, and have been tried to be hunted. There are couples who tried to hunt me a
You?
number of times.
Oh,
Um,
oh no.
yeah. Most
Um,
often
but-
calling me a female, which is fun, especially when
Ah,
I had already known I was non-binary.
mm,
But so now a lot of the times there's those breaks from monogamy because it's cool, but it still has monogamy and still has amatonormativity at its core.
yeah.
And so that
it's those fortunate.
yeah, but that hits every community. I think polyamory, there's the idea that if you're ace and you're dating someone monogamously, well, maybe you want to let that partner be like have an open relationship so your partner can sleep with other people because they're not getting it from you. And there are some ace people who are fine with that, and there are
Mm-hmm.
some ace people who, if they're actually polyamorous, like I have partners who
Mm-hmm.
who are allo, and it's great that they can get the sex they want elsewhere. Just we're both polyamorous and we're not doing it because of that, which is
Exactly. That's the
Oh
key.
yes, exactly,
right.
exactly.
But
Funnily enough,
but
I
yeah.
have a story about that. So my second relationship, I she was a lot more sexual than I am, and we were both long distance. So I was the one who made the idea that we should be in an open relationship. Which if even when she was going out to see other men or someone else to sleep with, she always calls me up being like, "Hey, is this okay?" I'm here like, "Yes, it's okay." I'm the one who brought it up. So and our relationship worked because of that. But the only reason why it didn't work out was because we decided to stay friends. And so yeah, that's my story.
So we have
Yeah.
been going for, almost 2 hours now. I'm thinking it
Really?
might be a good time to just take a little bit of a break, grab some water, stretch, and then we can come back and talk a little bit more about, a little bit more about amatonormativity if folks have anything else. I think it might be also important to think about a couple terms that you might have mentioned, Kamianya, about some of the polyam stuff, because I'm not sure the chat may know all these terms. And then we can get into, the final
Absolutely.
section on
Yeah.
intersectionality.
Yeah.
So I figure we'll take
I've been trying to remember to define, but I'm sure
yeah,
there are things that I've just
definitely,
flew through because I'm so used to them.
totally.
But yeah,
So we'll
Yeah,
take
okay.
as
But
someone who has been in only monogamous, this is really eye-opening,
mhm,
especially when
yeah.
both me and my partner are poly as
yep,
well.
yeah.
So we'll take like a
Um,
5 minute
but
break
yes, let's
and
take the
then
break and
we'll be
yeah.
back. So
I
I'm
need
gonna
to
run and
feed a cat and
yeah,
bio break myself, so
exactly. So we'll run an
right.
ad. We'll switch over
Mhm.
to the BRB screen and be back in about 5 minutes. And welcome
Oh,
back.
we're
We're
live!
yeah, we're back from the break.
Hello.
Thanks for sticking around. Had some great chats about amatonormativity. Covered a lot of different things. I think we talked about a lot of different terms. That folks may not necessarily be familiar with. So maybe we'll just start by you know reminding folks what we mean on a couple things. So I think the first thing I wanted to remind Chad about is what is meant by unicorn and unicorn hunting in the polyam community.
Yes. Okay. Um. So a unicorn is typically most often a bi woman open to dating a couple. Um, Sometimes, uh, most very specifically over the most blah, blah, blah. Sorry, brain. Um, the key is it's somebody willing to date both people in a couple. So, like I said, most often it's a bi woman dating a straight couple, or no, sorry, a straight man and a bi woman. Important. The key is that she's attracted to both people in the couple. Both people in the couple are attracted to her. Um, I believe I've heard dragon to refer to a uh man, whether it be a gay couple looking for a third or a couple where the man is bi looking for a third. But and I know that occasionally it does happen with a lesbian couple for a third. I don't know if there's a specific term there, but the most often is a straight couple looking to find their unicorn, their one person, and almost always this person is expected to do things like, so this is also where couple privilege comes into play. The couple can go on dates on their own. um she can only go on a date with both of them, like, at once. I'm saying she because, again, that's most often. She cannot date outside the couple. So, like, they're looking for a polyamorous person, but that person must not be dating anyone but them. And it's toss up. Most often, they're looking to be a closed triad. They don't want to date. They're looking for their one person, so they're not dating anyone either. But again, I see they're looking for someone who's polyamorous but is single and willing to date only them. Um, the idea of unicorn is because it's so hard to find someone like this who is also going to be attracted to both people. There's a lot of predatory ways. A lot of these couples are looking for someone who basically, like, they're looking for like a uh bang maid, someone who they can have sex with and who will either help clean up after them or help with their children, things like that. Um, it is very rare that a couple looking for a third is doing so in any way that is at all like
Yeah.
respecting their third person. Um, and like if the unicorn is in love falls in love with one person in the couple and not the other, like, there's that, like, over time, or like falls out of love with one, then that's probably going to just end things there, where the couple
Mm.
stays together and the unicorn is let loose. If one of the people in the couple starts to feel too much for the unicorn over their partner, they're probably going to cut that person loose. Like, it is a very unhealthy mode of looking for somebody. It
Yeah.
is a very unhealthy mode of finding somebody and the ways they treat them. And this is what unicorn hunting is. That's the term we typically refer to it within the community, because it's very rare that unicorn hunters refer to themselves as hunters. Sometimes they will put unicorns in their bio and such. Another thing is, very, very often the wife will put a thing looking for somebody, and then will suddenly introduce their husband partway through when they've already made a connection with the other woman that they've been talking to. Like, again, so many predatory ways that this
Hmm.
happens. There are ways
Mhm.
for triads to happen organically and ethically, for people to meet, realize they're all attracted to each other, and start dating. It is very rare this happens when there's already a couple. It does, but again, if it doesn't happen kind of that organically, it is almost guaranteed to be very bad.
Yes.
And one of the big things is the way that we get represented in media, in the polyamorous community, is oftentimes as that triad, as a triple with one man and two women. And sometimes they don't suggest that there was a couple first. It's just that these are the three people, but it's almost always represented that way, which means that couples, number one, will often do this when they're trying to save their relationship, which is um, opening the relationship and having a baby. Both things people will do to try to save a
Mm.
relationship, both things that end up just causing a lot of harm for somebody outside of the couple. Either it's,
Absolutely.
their kid
Which
themselves
is
or the people
unfortunate.
they're kind of using. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, it's Just
Very
yeah, there's a
problematic.
lot of pieces to all of this. Yeah. Um, but so that's what unicorn is. That's what unicorn hunting is, and that's part of why it's so bad. And the way it fits with the amatonormativity is again because there's this assumption that there is this couple in the middle of it, and
Hmm.
that couple still fits all of these things, but now they're kind of dragging a third person with them as kind of their side piece, even if that's not how they, focus it, like
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
put it.
absolutely.
Yeah. So
And absolutely. And the other thing I just wanted to remind chat about is, what we're talking about when we talk about queer platonic or quasi platonic relationships. And I can talk a little bit about that. So,
go for it.
um, queer
Go for
platonic
it.
or quasi platonic relationship is a relationship that's not platonic. It's not romantic. There's no one particular way to have a QPR.
Yep.
It's really defined by the two people within a QPR as to what that relationship's going to look like. Um, there's definitely a lot of unfortunate definitions floating out there, being like it's a gray area between platonic and romantic, but that's also problematic because people within a QPR may not at all see it as either. And so, do you have
Yep.
a better way of explaining it, Kamianya?
Um, Not really. Like I said, for me personally, a QPR is more than just a friendship because we say it
Yeah,
is.
yeah,
And that means something. It
Mm.
means we're going to be doing
absolutely,
something different, and
exactly.
it does imply some level of different feelings.
Yeah,
But what that means for the couple can be so different from
exactly,
or group to
Yeah.
group or partner to partner. Um,
definitely.
yeah.
For for me, it was like an in between like platonic
Mhm.
and romantic because like I have no idea where I fit in. It's that
Hmm.
romantic, but it's not platonic. It's like somewhere in between, and I always like explain it that way. But I also explain like it's up to the people who are in the relationship to
Exactly,
define it.
Mhm.
That's how I personally perceive it. Like,
exactly.
hey, like I'm interested in you, but not quite,
Hmm.
but I can see that we can make it work. And
Definitely.
I feel
Yeah.
like that type of view only works with QPR. And I realized that because of like the three relationships that I've been in, like how I felt was like, well, I really want to be in a romantic relationship with you. However, like the way that I went about it, my actions were like more friends, but less.
Yeah,
Which that's what I thought a romantic relationship was, but apparently not.
Yeah. I like what Ghost Hug is incoming
yeah,
says, which is I explained it as a relationship where you have elements that don't fit neatly into the box of platonic or romantic and have elements typical of
exactly.
both.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. That's a really good way
Mhm.
of explaining it for sure.
Yeah.
So one of the things I'd like to maybe chat about for a little bit is, you see the term "love is love" at Pride, and I definitely have thoughts around this particular phrase because what sort of love do you think is being talked about when they say "love is love"?
Well, obviously, it'll be romantic.
Hmm.
However, love is love can be a definition with a lot of
Yeah,
things. It can be
absolutely.
like queer platonic love. It can be
Yeah,
platonic. It can
absolutely.
be any type of love that you seem to be. And that's how I perceive love is love. Now,
Yeah,
some people strictly see it as romantic, some people
yeah,
see it as other things, but that's basically what it is.
for
Like,
sure.
love is love can be applied to the a romantic community
Yeah,
because of like how we perceive it.
Yeah.
It
totally.
So like
doesn't have to
Mhm.
always have to be like romantic.
Yeah, I think it has a lot of potential because um sorry, thing in chat. Yeah, really quickly. I do have all the pieces, but overall I typically just call myself queer unless I'm specifically in a community like this where
Hmm.
those this micro ones matter just in response to Hugster.
Yeah,
Hugster Duck? Duke? Hope
Duke.
I say it right. Duke. Hugster Duke. Um there's a lot of potential to accept it
Hmm.
as what we mean when we say love is love, because we're talking about platonic love. We're
Yeah.
talking about these different aspects of love. Um, and there's that, you know, that conversation we always have to have around pride about the couples that don't look outwardly queer. You
Hmm.
know, they look like a man and a
Mm-hmm.
woman, where number one, you don't know if one of them is bi or both of them are bi. You don't know if one of them is trans. You don't know if one of them is aro or ace, right?
Exactly.
There's all of those different elements that can be.
Exactly.
And then of course sometimes it's just that person needs an ally with them because they don't feel comfortable going themselves.
Yeah.
I'm very much
Of
a
course.
allies cannot center themselves at pride, but we do need allies.
Hmm.
They can't be
Mm-hmm.
the center of things.
Absolutely.
Also on
Yeah,
top of that,
absolutely.
but yeah, but there's that fact that if we have trouble with just even bi erasure, like um there's so much potential for love is love to mean exactly what we need it to mean. Just
Yeah.
and so like I haven't
Absolutely.
actually had a problem with it because I've never really thought about it, to be honest,
Yeah.
before. But I can see, but you can really see the thing of the, you know what people mean unless
Hmm.
you're in a group that is
Yes.
very A. And I say A because typically I found people who are agender, even if they aren't, and are even if they aren't ace or aro themselves, which most of the people, almost everyone I know who is agender is that triple A battery of
Yes.
aro, ace,
Yes.
agender. Yep,
Yeah.
that's how my QPP describes it.
Yeah. I know
Um,
several.
yeah. um, yeah, I love that term. But I found that just because it with the acknowledgement that the A isn't ally in the LGBTQIA plus, um, comes that acknowledgement most often that, oh right, A is a multitude of things.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
but like we shouldn't have to have that A is not for ally every single year, where a number of people say, luckily, quote unquote, most um queer people support that one. But I've seen it for ally from even other queer people.
Yeah.
Twitch.
You.
Twitch.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Cough,
Sorry.
cough. Until I
Don't
go
mind
off
my
that.
many, many, many. Like we are touching on a lot of my rants in all of this
Yeah.
because a lot of them come with those,
Yeah.
Oh,
the
absolutely.
heteronormativity, homonormativity, transnormativity, which luckily transnormativity for the most part comes from people who aren't trans. That idea that if you're transitioning, you must be transitioning to be straight, which is actually pretty rare. It feels
It's
like it
really,
happens,
really
but
rare.
Hmm.
it does happen, but it's a lot less often than I know that, trans people are. Obviously,
Yeah.
they're not transitioning to be straight, but um, there are so many non-straight trans people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And like
but
funnily enough,
it's that,
like going
yeah.
off that,
Hmm.
because like me and my whatever, it's me and my partner, because like we both look outwardly like lesbian, even though like I'm a gender and they're non-binary, and we're both like airways as well.
Hmm.
Like you would know that if you like caught a glance at us.
Yep, yep, yep.
Yep, yep.
And
But
also
but
the
yeah.
sorry?
Oh no, I don't remember. I think I started to say something at the same time you did, and now I don't remember what I was going to say. Anyways, go ahead, please.
I was going to say also that I'm sure, some part of the transnormativity is also the binary transness
Yes,
and,
yes.
Oh
excluding,
yeah.
non-binary umbrella.
Oh yeah, binary
I
does
guess we're
not.
non-existent.
Yeah, non-binary does not exist in transnormativity. Like I said, transnormativity, it's not just cis people who have that, but it is primarily cis people, and of course, the people who what is it? Oh shoot, I'm forgetting the term. For the people who insist that you must have, like, go through an actual transition, typically with medicine and surgery, in order to be trans.
Yeah, which is
Um,
so weird, especially when like in this day and age, like it takes like a lot to like transition if
mm,
you don't have like the tools or like the resources necessary.
yeah. Yeah, my QPP and I, if we were together we're long distance, so we haven't been together in public ever, much because we also haven't been together yet. Someday, very much, yeah, we would be read as a straight couple,
Mhm.
where neither of us is straight, neither of us are binary. We are both very queer in multiple different ways,
Mhm.
but yeah, um, my local partner and I, it very much just it really just determine or depends on how people decide to read my partner, whether they decide to read them as male or female that day. My long distance partner is my QPP. Yes. I have a really right now just two, my local and my long distance. Long distance is QPP of almost 2 years. My local is partner of slightly over 7. I don't think that my side of things is that different from either side, but I know my partner. And again, we've had lots and lots of conversations about it, especially as I figured myself out because they are hyper romantic. That's one of those places where I am very glad that we're polyamorous and they have other partners and such
Yeah.
too, because they get that more elsewhere. Um, but yeah. Um, Same with I'm disabled. Oh my gosh, I and my QPP are disabled. My local partner is question mark depending on the day. Um, but yeah, it's it depends how they're being read that day, as if we're read as a straight couple or a lesbian couple.
Mhm.
We definitely don't get read as the fact that we're both non-binary on both levels of things.
That
People
would
just,
never come across. No.
yep. The assumption
Mm,
very, very much is in society as a whole that uh you like it's the idea that if you're bi, you're not really bi. It depends on what relationship you're in. If you're with a man, or if you appear as a woman and you're with a man, clearly you're straight. If you're with a woman, clearly you're lesbian, which is not how it works.
No.
it doesn't work
But
like that.
again it all follows back into that idea of heteronormativity and homonormativity and just normativity as a whole,
All the
which
normativities.
yep,
All the
yep,
normativities.
yep. There's all those different levels of it where um and there's those traps to fall into no matter where you are and what community you are. Um and like it's actually one of the reasons it's a conversation I've had a bunch. There are many neurodivergent people are queer in some level
Yeah.
and or non-monogamous in some level or both. And I always feel it's
It's
because we
me.
already same. I'm ADHD,
Hmm.
right? My long distance partner I think is ADHD. My local
Same
partners
here.
Same.
is oh my god, brain autistic. I'm probably only ADHD because I have every place where they overlap. ADHD being autistic and ADHD. So I have
Yeah.
all of the places where ADHD and autism overlap. I have all of them.
Yeah.
But as far as we can tell, I have nothing that's just autism, and I do have things that's just ADHD. But question mark. But
Personally,
in
for
any case,
me,
it's that
uh,
once you're at any level where you um already are disinclined to believe, to just go along with societal norms, you're more inclined to question other pieces.
Yeah.
And
mhm.
maybe you'll question and come right back to, oh, I do fit, I am straight, but there's much more likelihood of questioning it from,
Hmm.
um,
Mhm.
right? And so that comes in all places, but also it can be hard to, if you don't know a thing exists, to still land on it. So, and especially
Definitely.
both with like I have definitely seen many times what both I and Sleepy Bunny said about the last things we figured out being ace and aro, especially because I think there's a lot less of those labels.
Yeah.
You're like
Yeah,
people
for
if you're not
Aromantic,
demi,
yeah.
or you're not repulsed,
Mm-hmm.
like clearly then you are right. Those are the two main ones, and it can be so much harder when you're not either of those to be in that place to figure out,
Yeah,
because even if you're questioning and you go like this doesn't feel right, so if you don't have that representation to know what there
exactly.
is, it's so hard to land on, like, it's so much easier to figure things out when you know something exists.
Absolutely. And
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely,
Hmm.
absolutely.
that's why I
But
want to highlight
also,
the diversity in these
Yeah.
podcasts.
Oh yeah. Yep.
yeah, I also want to like backtrack a little bit because like, especially when it came to like my gender, because I keep coming back to that.
Yeah.
Sometimes having all these micro labels does overwhelm you. I'm not gonna
Mm-hmm.
hold you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because if we're going to go by like by definition, then technically the definition that what I'm feeling could be like gender flux,
Mm-hmm.
but it's definitely not. Well, the label that I go by is agender, and it made me so confused. Like, am I gender fluid, agender, blah 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 blah, and all these like micro labels said make it like a little bit more harder for me to settle on my gender.
Yeah.
Like it was a way more easier with like my sexuality, a little bit harder with my gender, and the hardest boss was being aromantic. Still like record labels do help, but also it's overwhelming.
It's true. It can be true. That's one of those places where I feel like having people who can help guide you towards what you might want to look at. Like, I remember one of my friends poking me and being like, "Help! I feel this way, and I feel like that's not anymore cis, but I don't know what it is." And I looked at that list and went, "Here's a definition of demi boy," and he read it and went, "That's it, thank you." Right? Having the people who you can poke and be like, "Help!" can really
Mm-hmm.
help. It's also one of the reasons why I really
Certainly.
think, I have a lot of feelings about the idea that older and younger generations shouldn't be friends or shouldn't interact that some people have, because it's so important, I think, to have your um queer elders, where in
Mm-hmm.
this term when I say queer elder, I don't necessarily mean somebody who's actually older. Most often it is, but somebody who's been in that place and had and done the work for longer
Yeah.
and can help guide and help teach and help help you find your spaces
Yeah.
and such. So yeah.
Absolutely.
So I do know people I would call that who are much younger than me. Um, but like and I know people who I would not call that who are older than me.
Yeah.
But it's so important, I think, that we have those, because it
Totally.
helps navigate that potentially overwhelming situation. It really
Totally.
does.
Yeah, and
Um,
also I do agree
yeah.
that with also like like things like autism and
Mhm.
ADHD, because I didn't think I had ADHD or autism until like my friend who was actually diagnosed with ADHD, when I came to him about it, he's like, "Yeah, you might have it," and my own partner said like, "Yeah, you're on the spectrum." I was like, "The
Mhm.
fuck?"
Yeah. I mean, we navigate towards each other. It's a similar
Yeah.
thing of when so only certain aspects of identities and I'm going to just use the word identity for everything here, are explained and explored, so much gets missed. So with ADHD, one of the big ones I see is how many people think they can't have ADHD because they can focus on something that they care about. Isn't the idea of ADHD that you can never focus on anything? But that's not true. It's that your focus is at different places than you would be if you're neurotypical or not ADHD. It is, in fact, you're more likely to hyper focus to that point
Mm.
where the rest of the world disappears. You are so focused on a thing if you're interested in it.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I've had multiple people who were saying, these are the things I do really identify with, but I do this thing and I'm like, that's actually a pretty big sign of inattentive ADHD, because inattentive ADHD is massively misnamed. Right.
Yeah, that's why
Yep.
I have
Yeah.
inattentive ADHD.
Hmm.
I'm a
Same.
very
Yeah.
active daydreamer.
Yeah.
When it came
But
to like being autistic, I had like a lot more harder
mhm,
time
yeah.
like understanding if I
Mhm,
ever was.
yeah.
Was me like as a masking.
Yep. Oh, that
Yeah.
that too. But so
Yeah.
there's just all these aspects where we where certain things become like really well known and other things become effectively hidden that can make it so much harder. And again, that's part of that. It's a mixture of stigma, it's a mixture of amatonormativity, it's a mixture of the fact that far more often, it's the boy version of a thing that
Mhm.
gets, written down and looked for. Um, Whereas people who aren't boys, be that because we're non-binary or women or just sometimes don't have, it doesn't look that way. Like I know plenty of people who are cis men who have inattentive ADHD, right? It's just not the version that was expected. And that can be true with so many of these things. Um, where there's a style that is a thing that gets either, becomes a clinical definition, or the, ADHD, the hyperactive version, for instance, um, or just common nomenclature within the in group. So demi, like the prevalence of demi being the thing you see for people who are gray,
Mhm.
rather than all these many, 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 many other styles. So
Yeah.
if you're somebody who
Mhm.
feels sexually attracted to people or uh, early on, it can be extremely hard to realize that you can still
Yeah.
be ace
Mm-hmm.
depending on what happens with that. Like, right?
Yes.
Is part of why it took me
Mhm.
so long is
Same.
because I absolutely have, sexual attraction. Just it's very different,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So,
also why I didn't like identify with being like ace when I find out that
yeah.
was like not straight. I first identified as being bisexual at
Mhm,
first, then like it was a comic. It's not the comic where like a lot of people like get to know about like being like asexual and stuff like that. You see on Tumblr. It was one comic that was on Tapas or Taptastic, whatever you recognize it as. And this person had like a comic all about being ace. I was like, this is a really good art style, but I never could be ace until I saw
mhm.
the term demisexuality. Then I finally understood, like, holy shit, that's me.
I feel like there's certain things that become that. So, like, I know there's ADHD alien comics that are a thing that a lot of people have gone, "Oh my god, I'm ADHD" from those. I know the big trans one is a thing of the, if you worry about transitioning because you worry you'd make an ugly girl, you're already trans. Or not, it's something like that. It's something like that. Like, there's a lot of people who actually that broke the, that cracked their egg because they're like, "Oh
Really?
shit." Yeah. Yeah, I don't have the
Funnily
specific
enough.
wording. It's something like that. One of the ones who I know best is the creator of um oh my god, I just lost the name of the comic. I used to read it all the time. Real life? Something like that. Oh Jesus. Ah, brains. I may or may not remember it, it's coming up. We'll see.
Maybe. When it came to
But
like finding out like being non-binary, I was a little bit in denial with being non-binary, and that's mainly because of like how it would be like judged.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm very and like how would like that feeling of goes into like dating as well. Like damn, I'm gonna have a hard time finding like someone to date.
Yeah.
yeah.
So this if I were known if I gotten like 4 relationships under my belt, I think my perception will be a little bit different and like how I would be like perceived as well. I was like so worried about that. Then by the time I graduated, it's like, damn, I don't have to deal with these people anymore.
Yeah.
Holy shit, I'm not binary.
Yep.
I would
Yeah, I
definitely.
talked about stigma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, right? That is just such a big part of all of this is like normally especially talk about it when it comes to mental health because
Yeah.
like I didn't talk about being on meds for anxiety for nearly a full year after being diagnosed and on meds because I had to break that stigma even though I'd been on and talking about being on meds for ADHD for years, right? Um, but it's just as true when it comes to trans identities and different sexualities and romanticism, and
Yeah.
also knowing that split model exists, that you can be one thing and not, have your or your romantic and sexual be different, right?
Yeah, and also being on like I'm also on anxiety meds since January, which actually did help me when it came to like going into my QPR. Because like whenever like go into a relationship, I'm always in anxiety ward of like, okay, what can I do? What can I do? What to do? Basically like that. Also my partner did help me when it came to that, but like I was such anxiety ward that it was almost close to self-sabotage,
Mm,
I feel like.
yeah.
So so yeah, like having like my anxiety being at a manageable level and also knowing that like a QPR is what's best for me. It actually like solidified my current relationship.
For me, I would say that once I came to identify as, both Aspec and Aro-Spec and stopped worrying about this, oh, I just haven't found the future partner yet, because that's what I was told for years, that I started to feel more comfortable with actually exploring my own gender. And, coming across the term at the time, demisexual or demigender what started getting me thinking about, gender in the first place. I've found that I don't necessarily associate with the term demigender, but it was the first thing that started to get me think about my own gender identity. But I don't
Yeah.
think I would ever have started thinking about it if it weren't for me coming to realize that I'm Aro-Spec in the first place. Because I think, I would have, tried to conform to whatever I had to in order to meet the requirements of what society deemed me to be. But
Mhm.
now that I stopped worrying about that, it really gave me that chance to think about things more deeply. And that's when I kind of came to the realization.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm
Mhm.
finding myself accidentally giggling a bit because it really does lie into that. Once you figure out that you can let go of one piece of society norms and societal expectations, wow, does it become easier to
Mm-hmm.
let go of the other and to at least
Yeah,
explore that
Absolutely.
conversation, if nothing else. Like,
exactly.
it's yeah. The,
Exactly.
oh, I figure out this thing and therefore I realize I could do that. I feel like it's a very, very common path for many
Yeah,
people. Mine was more
Yeah.
lots and lots of steps along the way,
yeah.
partly with like I said, 10th grade I figured it out. I was bi because I had a dream about introducing somebody in my a cappella choir as my girlfriend, and I was woke up and I'm like, "Wait, what?" And I'm not attracted. I was not even that friendly with that person, much less I was very much not attracted to that person in any way. So I had to stop and go, "Wait, what did that mean?" And realize that, "Oh, hey, I'm attracted to somebody else in my choir." Who's a different woman, um right. But so like it's been a lot of little steps for me, partly because some of it comes as I learn the terms exist. Some
Mm-hmm.
There's quite a number of things, like again, I was born in 87. Some of these things were
Same.
definitely there, just not around me.
Yeah,
Okay, sweet.
same.
Yeah,
Oh
right. Some of
damn,
the
so
things were
BC
there,
before
just not
bunnies.
around me. Some of these were things that, just weren't really didn't have terms yet.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right? But so it's like actually it's why I try to live my life as the person I needed when I was younger. It's
Mm-hmm.
part of why I'm so loud about all of my,
Same.
especially micro identities. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want other people to be able to find themselves before their
Yes.
30s, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Um but it's so much harder when you don't see these things to
That
figure
is
out
Totally.
fair.
the
Yeah.
the many parts of it. And so like I'm so happy for you, Sleepy Bunny, that you were able to figure out all this so much and on this journey so much earlier than it sounds like either of us were.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I
Yeah.
was also on the journey earlier than Tylee. You said you were on it mostly in over COVID,
Yeah,
where
20,
I
yeah,
had figured,
2020
yeah,
basically
yep,
is when it all
where
started
I
for
had
me.
figured most of it out already. I just hadn't figured out which level, what my Aro looked like yet.
Yeah, and I think for me,
Um,
it's
but
because of the
mhm,
fact that I identify very much in that gray area. And if it weren't for
mhm,
those micro labels, I would never have come across it in
mhm,
the first place.
yeah.
I feel like I had more struggle with my gender than like literally anything else, even though like I did find out that I was aromantic back in early of 2022. I had the most trouble with my gender and what it meant for me. And because like my gender is not like stereotypical, you don't really see like a lot of like agender people. I never met another agender actually. That's how minuscule it is.
I
But I
know a
met like a lot of
couple.
gender
I
fluids.
know
Yeah.
quite a lot.
Yeah.
Um,
That makes one of us.
yeah. But again, I've
But
been part of
yeah.
these communities for a long time now. I've
Yeah.
I've been specifically I have been actively looking for the communities and knowing where they existed now for quite a number of years. And like again, my QPP is a AAA battery, which means Z knows a lot more people who fall under that, right? It's one of those the more the more you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, oh my god. I that was definitely from something I don't remember which thing I just referenced. Except I'm
I
pretty
it,
sure it was a 90s kid thing. Um,
I think it's CBS.
maybe.
Either that or PBS. I forgot
It's
because
one
like
of those. But my
it's
point
one of
is
those.
it's very much the more you know a thing exists, the more you can look into it, the more you meet other people like it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and
And
like
I feel like we're in the same age where like everything's on the internet. Like I'm gonna draw a die. I was born in 2001. Yeah, I know, young child, baby, zygote. I heard it all.
I had my B'nai Mitzvah before you were born. Sorry, keep going.
Again, that actually gave me a good. Like I heard all the terms that you call like a baby, I guess. But in this day and age, like even in my high school, we were a lot more accepting. When it came to transgender or like the topic of being trans, that's a whole entire different story.
Mm-hmm.
But this is around the time where like I was in high school, like 2015 to 2019. So
Yeah,
things might have been changed.
I mean, you're also now coming into the gender section. This is one of the interesting things is unfortunately I feel like it might start being easier to explore certain sexualities for a while than to explore gender, considering at least if you're in the US, but also US, UK, there's a lot now much more backlash again about gender stuff.
Even here in
Oh
So it's
Canada.
yes,
kind of
Even here in
absolutely.
Canada.
oh yeah, yeah.
Especially like
So
yeah, like
yeah.
oh, I can actually talk about that because and during my internship with my nonprofit, I was also making a memo called the cast review memo. And the cast review just basically made like a whole entire like PDF file that actually like harms like trans youth in the UK. And it's now coming to the US as well. So that's why like we had to like do like our research and make like a short little memo about like what the cast review is and what they got wrong when it came to like trans youth, trans affirming care, all that good pizzazz. And all that's happening in the UK. That's now going to like the US.
It's bad. They're both going both ways, and it's a problem in many ways. But
Yes.
They're
the other thing I do want to say is that like you mentioned figuring out your gender being one of the harder pieces.
Mm-hmm.
hmm
Um,
and
where I know it's like um and it's just for everyone who's in that space of still figuring things out that I've at this point like I'm at this point pretty set again in my 30s and have gone through a lot of this and a lot of this thought at many levels. But that doesn't mean things won't change for me or I won't learn a term that suddenly I go, oh shit, I should look more into that. Case in point, De- however you pronounce that one, the
there's
Desinoromantic,
no romantic.
Desinoromantic.
Yeah.
Case in point that. But everybody is going to have their own path.
Mm-hmm.
It might be you find a term that doesn't apply to you, but
Mm-hmm.
lets you realize there's more to it.
Yeah.
It might be um, people say, "Hey, are you this thing?" And then you look it up and go, "Yeah, I am this thing." Huh? How about that? it may be you find a thing online and try it for yourself, and that's not right, but you find the next thing over.
Yeah.
It might be, again,
Yeah,
that as you discover one, you have more freedom to discover others, very often. But
absolutely. Like
mhm,
when I was like, oh, go ahead. My
yeah,
bad.
no, sorry, but I just want to be, it's very much your path to your identities and all the pieces of your identity is going to be personal to you. It might look like somebody else's. Like you and somebody else might end up having a path that looks almost identical or is pretty much identical just by happenstance. It's going to happen. But overall, just because yours doesn't look like somebody else's, or if yours changes over time, that again doesn't mean it's, you know, um, there's no such thing as just a phase. Just because it changes from one time to another doesn't mean it was uh less true. There's a different word I was looking for, but I can't think of it. So yeah, less true before, right? Or that you can't trust it now. So
Yeah,
those are just all those pieces that I think are so important when it comes to the identity question is let yourself question for one
Yeah.
thing,
hmm,
but also, sometimes and be open to the fact that maybe your questioning will just draw you back to what society says everybody wants. And that's okay. Like this is a conversation I have with my local partner who feels like, well, like my local partner has a thing in their brain that says if that social norms should be bad, and that's not true. It's just they shouldn't be norms. So if you come back to that thing and it's just whatever society says, that's fine. If that's where your questions lead you back to, just
yeah,
you know, um,
of course.
that's all. It's just a little rant about follow yourself,
Yeah, absolutely.
let
Follow
yourself
your dreams. Don't let your dreams be dreams.
Oh my
But
god.
but for but for real though, like if I
Yeah.
just never like seen the term of like being gender fluid, I've never would like saw the term agender.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like I honestly thought that was gender fluid for like a hot minute because of how like I was gender non-conforming. I was dressing feminine, dressing men. I was like, oh, maybe I'm gender fluid, but that wasn't the case. I would like my mind and what I think my body is agender. It's just like how do I want to be perceived that day
Hmm.
by other people?
Hmm.
That's what like got me to think I was gender fluid, but no,
Yeah.
agender.
Yeah.
I just be like,
Yeah.
okay, I don't. It's like, oh, I don't mind like being perceived as a girl right now, or as a guy. But like, if you tell me like, what gender are you feeling right now? I'm gonna be like, I don't know.
Valid. Absolutely
Very
valid.
valid. Yeah, 100%. And I just have to say also, I really love the fact that you did have such a different path to it than we did and figured
Absolutely.
things out so much earlier because it also gives us that really variety, large variety of voices here. And I think that's really, really valuable. So just,
Totally.
yeah.
Yeah, and like it was because of my upbringing, because my parents were very accepting, which is very surprising. Like to know that like my parents grew up in the Virgin Islands, which is a U.S.
Wow.
territory. And the fact
Yeah.
that like they're very like opening, like even like my whole entire family is very open to it, which was very surprising to me because these are Caribbean people.
Hmm.
Oh, and through like coming out of the closet to one of my aunts, I find out that she's bisexual. So I realized that I'm not the only like gay cousin.
Yep.
And I also realized that like part of my family is autistic or have ADHD due to like one of my aunts like confirming that. So that was interesting. So you get
Very
to like
much had to
find out like
find it out myself. There's no queer representation at all in any of my family or extended family that I'm aware of. And my stepdad, being, almost 80 growing up in, very strict UK, like, it was very much, this way or, the highway kind of approach.
I didn't think I grew up with any family like that. Um, my mom doesn't identify as queer. we've had the conversation, but we've had the
Mhm.
conversation where she does think that maybe if she was younger, she might identify as non-binary. That just the sheer number of things because of me that we've had these
Yeah.
conversations about where I've had to have a number of conversations where she's been confused because she goes like, "Isn't everyone like that?" I'm like, "No, no, mom, it's not." Right? Um, my mom also had like some of the dysphoria that I around certain body parts that I never did, which is interesting. But like just
Mm.
a lot of conversation, but also I was thinking back to so my mom has writes music. It used to be it's now much more Judaica. It used to be much more just general. But so like she wrote a love song to my dad. And
Aw.
the chorus goes, "I never wrote a love song, and I never thought I would, because I never had a love before, and I thought I never could. Never needed a companion, even when you came along. I thought myself unchanged until I missed you when you'd gone." And there's so many
Damn.
it's
Wow.
beautiful, but I was sitting there and I was thinking, it
Bars.
goes like and then I sent my mom the definition of demi. I was like, "Hey, mom, does this sound feel familiar to you?"
Yeah.
And yeah, we're pretty sure my mom is demi-romantic, and demisexual. So
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
right?
Man, crazy.
So
I'm totally
Like,
similarly,
so
yeah,
I
like,
think.
yeah, I feel like this my generation or the younger generation is a lot more accepting
Yeah.
when it comes to like gender and sexuality, even though like I did say like during like my time in high school they were not that like accepting when it came to trans people, especially like the trans girl that was in the cheerleading squad. She was really nice, but people keep talking shit about her, which was sad. And also like made me go back in the closet a little bit further. But afterwards, like after I got into college and stuff like that, like people respect my name, my pronouns, all that good pizzazz. And like made me like go be a little bit more open to venturing out. So having like that safe space or having like that safe community does like play like a good part of like coming
yeah,
out to
such a
people or like finding
change.
your own identity. Because like I would have never like been out of the closet or like had that aha moment in high school. It literally took the day I graduated, walking across the stage, hugging my mom, to be like, "Holy fuck, I'm non-binary
I
and
love that. I still think
pansexual."
that's the best thing ever. Is you literally graduated into realizing you were agender. Like that's
I graduated.
amazing
I basically left
and
this cisgenderness.
hilarious to
I
me.
left it in that
Yeah.
high school. I'm never going back
Yeah.
for it.
No, I was very lucky that I knew my family was very accepting. Like, my aunt had been at some of the first weddings in Massachusetts, growing up in Massachusetts, and had been like a lawyer who I think helped fight for some of that. My I forget how I knew a lot of these aspects. Like coming out as bi to my parents was a little nerve wracking, but not very. Um, and as it turns out, I'm very lucky that at every level of these weird identities, queerness and poly and all of this, and now in my disability especially, I'm lucky. I'm still very close to my parents. Like at a level, actually, my mom's still one of my best friends, despite all of these things, and that is extremely rare. Uh, just in
For
general,
me,
much less with all these things that added to it.
for me, like
Um,
how I like view my
but
parents, like they try their best.
yeah,
Like they try their best because like they never like they just came to like the States when they were 18. They tried their best and they tried to like give us the methods that they did, even though most of it does not really apply to me or I tried and like failed. So like
yeah.
Yeah.
but that's just like my own experiences.
Yeah.
And my parents
Like
tried to make sure that in a lot of ways I grew up in a way I could make my own decisions. And while this
yeah, that
especially, and this actually touching on intersectionality,
Mhm.
while this especially was in regards to Judaism and figuring out how to do Judaism for myself, um, it, I think, like, there are just a huge number of ways in which my Jewish identity has really formed who I am. And a lot of ways in which, again, those levels of being able to figure out parts of things there. I'm very also lucky. Very also lucky. I'm also lucky. I remember that I don't remember who it was, but we had a lesbian state representative of some sort. My brain says senator, except that can't be true. But talk at my synagogue at one point. So like I never actually questioned how my sexuality and my gender fit in with my religion. Not really. There's too many different aspects and ways in which it fit just fine. Um, but I think that might be part of also where that ability to really think about these things and figure out how I wanted to do my religion. I'm now realizing, like, this is a revelation to me, right here for the record. Um, really seems familiar now with other aspects and with aspects of gender and sexuality and stuff. So
I've
speaking on,
never-
it feels like we have been moving towards that six, the way we've been talking about all of these different ways
Yeah,
we're talking about arospec identity with our other identities. So
Absolutely. We've been discussing
absolutely.
intersectionality all
yeah,
throughout
Yeah,
this.
we've been moving it pretty
yeah,
naturally. I'm proud of
yeah. It has
myself.
been. But if you'd like to introduce the question and especially the term.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we've been, talking a lot about intersectionality, which is essentially looking at how, all these, different identities essentially add complexity to or interact with one another. Initially when it was defined, it was looking at how, you know, ethnicity, race, sexuality could all be, varying levels of oppression. But you can also look at intersectionality as to how these different aspects of your identity interact with one another and um, the complexities and the complexities that creates, if
Yeah.
you will.
Yep. Because that's what it is. It's about those complexities of what happens as you layer more identities on
Exactly.
in many different ways. So the different way, it's with the racism side of it, which is where it was founded, like transmisogynoir, I believe is, I hope I said
Yeah.
that right,
Yeah.
where what you face if you're a black trans woman is going to be different than just as a black woman versus
Mm-hmm.
as a trans woman, and
That is
levels,
true.
right. And so that comes into play a lot with all of this, sexuality and gender wise. But yeah, it's
For me, I'm also like a witch. I do spiritual practices. I dabble in witchcraft and stuff like that. And I've been a witch since I think like early 2019. I think it was like a little bit into like my senior year in high school. And like the way that I think about like intersectionality is like they connect, but I never had any trouble when it came to like how does it fit and stuff like that. I just viewed it as their own things. And when it get compiled like onto one another, I like to call myself like a super minority because like I'm black, I'm queer, like I'm trans.
Yeah.
My cat is trying to like see what the hell's going on.
I just see going
But
from
but
to my
she
cat. Like my brain was expecting my cat is to be part of that list. But yeah, right.
my cat she was sleeping on my bed. I don't know why she's active right now. But
Because
like
she's a cat.
yeah,
I mean,
like
straight up.
me being a second generation college wise and also like
Yeah.
US wise, even though we're technically US citizens, the US territory part makes me
Hmm.
have like a lot of like relatability when it comes to people who are like second gen or like first generation of their family. A lot. Poetry, no. No. Okay, I was trying to like have my lotion, which is actually the strawberry pound cake, which feels really nice. Uh but other than like that, like the realization is like, oh damn, I'm very much a micro minority.
Absolutely.
Um,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't really like deem my like all of the things I am as like it I don't really have any like conflicts with it. I think it's just like, oh damn, it is what it is.
Well,
That's who
it
I am, I guess.
well, also it's part of it is going to be that how you like navigate through life though. It's not just internally, right? It's so as you go through and as you deal with the communities, um, and you've talked about that some also about the how certain things were easier to bring up because of how like when it was going to be seen and who you were dealing with, right? For different
Oh
parts of your
yeah.
identity. Yeah, so for me, the big one that I get questioned about, which is also to me one of the easiest things, is that religion, being
Hmm.
religious and being all the things we talked about. But social action and helping the world and certain ways of thinking about things is so intrinsically built into myself because of being Jewish
Hmm.
that I don't feel that tension that a lot of other well, especially Christianity, not even that
Yeah.
a lot of other religions, because built into some as much as it's not built into Judaism in the same way, like there is actually 6 different identities, like gender identities in um the Tanakh, like in our oh my god, why can't I think of the right word? Holy books and holy works. There's a word for that, and I'm blanking on it. Can't no, not canon. Anyways, but there are 6 identities built in. They are all ones that are physical, though, right? But basically, intersex is very recognized. But um, but again, just I've never felt that issue, except for when I go to other like the bigger issue I have is actually not in the religious community. It's when I go into some of the you know uh queer communities and get backlash for being religious.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah, because
yeah,
like, because there's a thing when it comes to like a lot of like stuff that is in the queer community that's absolutely tied when it comes to religion, especially when it comes to Christianity
yeah.
and
Hmm.
like the branches that go into Christianity, like Catholicism, like all that good jazz. And I'm not surprised that like
So
Judaism
it
is lumped
so
into that
Judah
as well.
so people assume Judeo-Christian is actually a thing, which it isn't. I don't think I have ever in my life had somebody say something was Judeo-Christian that was actually Jewish at all.
I'd never heard
Um,
that term in my life.
okay, so Judeo-Christian, for the record, is a term that people often use to lump Judaism and Christianity together. Um, with the idea, especially that Christianity came out of Judaism and that sort of thing, and therefore must have things in common. Except that every single thing I've ever heard listed as this is not Jewish at all. And this is, one of my
Mhm.
common spiels, kvetches, throwing a little bit of
No, you're good. You're good.
Yiddish into there. Um, but but the thing is that all the things I'll ever get accused of, typically when it comes to being religious, is almost always things we don't do. Like, I can't remember I had a very long argument with somebody at once about the idea of doing good works as a religious organization and the idea that it must be to proselytize. Except in Judaism, it is actively forbidden to proselytize, and the highest form of charity, the highest mitzvah that you do with charity is when you don't know who you're donating to and they don't know where it came from. Like, you're not supposed to
Mhm.
be going, "Hey, this donation comes from this religious charity. If you join this religious charity, you'll get more." No, that is like actively forbidden. Um, right? But so just it's that always that assumption that almost anything I ever get is Christianity, except that none of it's true for me. Um, so that is actually one of those interesting things and where I have more of the difficulty is trying to convince people that look, yes, I'm religious. No, it's not inconsistent. No, those things don't apply with to me. No, I'm not going to bring up these things that might bring up your religious trauma. Yes, please let me say, happy Hanukkah to other Jewish people. I mean, I'm more likely to say some of the other holidays, but that's the one that most people know. Um, right? Or having places where just talk it's one of those interesting things where in if some places where you have those that's no politics rules, discussion of sexuality and gender is disallowed. I have very much been in queer spaces that absolutely straight out um disallow religious conversation, even when it's, not Christianity, even if it's just wishing people a happy such and such. So yeah. Um
Yeah, and I feel like that just very much excludes like a lot of people in the community because
Mm,
there are religious queer people just
absolutely.
you can be. And there's also like people
yeah.
that are Christian or Catholic who are also in the queer community. Like I'm
Yeah.
not gonna be like delving into like witchcraft and stuff like that because that's actually accepted in the queer
It is,
community.
yeah.
There's a lot of queer witches up in
Hmm.
here. I'm not gonna hold you.
Absolutely.
But
True, it's
like
way more accepted.
it's way more
Yeah.
accepted because like I'm not sure if it's just like, oh damn, we've been prosecuted by Christians, you've been prosecuted by Christians, we might as
Oh,
well like wrap each other up, I guess. But like I'm because like you're able to have like religious conversations and not have it be like a fuck fest. Like for
yeah.
example, like I have a friend, the exact same friend who like made me realize that I was ADHD. He's Catholic. And we're able to have like these deep religious conversations without it being like a yelling contest or a debate or like he uses like my chosen name. He uses my pronouns. He uses everything. He's Catholic and he's straight. He's basically a cishet man. And the fact that we're able to have these conversations, like it's really not that hard to be respectful of people's like religions and stuff like that without like bringing in like your own prejudices because it really just prejudice
Yeah.
on both
Um
sides of the
oh yeah,
community.
right? Like I will admit, like I had mentioned it sucks to not be able to bring up Judaism stuff, but like yeah, depending on how people bring up Christianity, it actually can be a problem for me too because well, we were also very persecuted, but it's more the I don't care if people are like it's the people, please wish other Christian people happy holidays for your holidays. Please don't wish it on me. Just kind of thing. It's the I
Hmm.
actually have a lot of I know a lot of friends who are absolutely fine with being wished Merry Christmas. I do not want to be wished Merry Christmas, just as an example.
That's
Like as
valid.
the most
So
tame
valid.
example. Right. I get more the bigger issues are the times where I get things where I explicitly get somebody who know even to people who know I'm not Christian being like, Jesus bless you, and I'm like, no. Screw off.
Yeah.
Um, Sleepy Bunny, I'd actually be curious. I just may or may not, because I know that with some of the people who I know, and this isn't a thing I can talk on, I don't experience it because I'm white. Um, Judaism has its question marks of where it falls, but overall, I'm white. Do you find that you have issues, like you get racism sometimes in the queer communities, or that you have, like aphobia in your communities? I know you said your parents are fine with it. I don't know if it's a thing
Mhm.
you find in
Th-
other
That's
locations.
that's actually a perfectly fine question. I'm in an area which is very saturated with a lot of culture. So I'm not gonna get like blatant racism. I'm not gonna get like the N-word called out to me. No, not at all.
Yeah.
I'm in a very like high saturated area where we have like people that are Caribbean, Hispanic, Asian, white. Like we're not gonna have like that type of thing. And also when it comes to like me being ace, like I don't really like I like to call myself an open secret. Like, if you ask about it, I will tell you
Hmm.
in certain
I
degrees.
love that description of the open secret. That is amazing.
Yeah, I especially when it comes to like streaming and stuff like that. Like a lot of my personality and a lot of the things I like dislike or like whatever is about me is
Mhm.
is very much an open secret. Like if you've been around me long enough, you're gonna know stuff about me. And like hell, even some people like that are my online friends know what I look like. They know my face. Do they know my name? Hell no, that's not gonna be a secret. Only like two, three people actually know what my chosen name is.
A few people.
Regardless of that,
I have to
only a
say, a
few
few
people.
people here know mine, but the thing is, at this point, Kamianya is as much my name, I swear, as is my, non-Kami-anya name. And someday I might end up having to combine them because my lives are starting to come together in way too many ways. But
That's fair.
like my long distance partner, my queer platonic partner calls me Kami, does not call me by my real name. I call them by the nickname based. Well, the name I call them is also based on their real name because their screen name comes from their real name, so I do know it. But
That's
so
fair. That's fair.
I kind of do both. But it's like many of my best friends in this community absolutely call me by Kami. Um, but yeah, uh,
Like
say a
like
thing
when it
about
comes to
them.
like my sexuality and my romantic side of things, it it only comes up when it's the topic like if we're talking about like more adult stuff, be like, oh yeah, like as an asexual, to be like, oh, you're asexual? It's like, yeah, I am. Like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
Goes on with the conversation. Like it's not really like much of like a big aha moment or like a big deal.
Uh-huh.
But that's probably because like majority of my friends are roughly around 20 to 25.
Fair,
Granted. But
fair.
but still like the only time I only had like an in-depth conversation about like being asexual or like being aromantic or my gender is whenever like someone who's like a little bit older at like my current internship like saying like, oh hey, what is this? And I explain. That's basically it. It's more or less like older people or people that want to know more about like being ace or like for example, like some of like the younger generation. Like one of my friends, I'm the only person that she has known to be trans, to be like asexual and aromantic. And she takes it with open arms. She didn't even know someone like had like they didn't pronouns until she met me. So, like, he's like, I'm sorry if I get this messed up, this and that. You're literally the person that I first met.
Mm. Do you have
So, like,
actually that's so that's the thing that I'm curious about. You said first person who I hope you don't mind me asking you these questions, sorry.
you're
Um,
perfectly fine.
but sleep Sleepy Bunny, you mentioned, and this is I think actually a really interesting question, probably for another podcast when there's more time,
Absolutely.
but just as the quite
Absolutely.
like actually I'm just gonna throw this question out there for another time and not for us to
Yeah.
discuss right now. But that question of being the first that
Yeah.
somebody knows and
Yeah.
feeling either the pressure or the joy of being the
Hmm.
representative and how that feels. Like I think
Absolutely.
that's a long question. So I'm like, let's
Yes.
not talk about it now.
Yeah,
But
That is
it is I think
true.
absolutely.
an
I can
important one.
like, like I can touch off on it like a little bit.
So
But I was like, when you're first, damn, that's crazy. Anyway,
I have
like
that for a number of things
Yeah.
myself. So yeah.
the way that I perceive like a lot of things are a little bit more like lackadaisical or laissez-passer. Mainly because like either it's like, oh, this isn't that, and it's not that
Yep.
deep. Probably
Yeah.
because like the deeper thing should be like your mental well-being, like how you
Definitely.
perceive things and stuff like that. That's
Abs-
where the more like deeper physio I don't know philosophical. I have speech
No,
Absolutely.
I get
impairment.
it.
Bear with me.
Yeah. Oh no,
Um,
I get it. I'm actually finding it really fascinating, and this is we do not have time to go into some of this in
No,
depth
absolutely.
it
at
Yeah.
all.
absolutely not.
But I'm finding it really, really interesting how different your experiences and some of my other friends and
Yeah.
like I am very used to like microaggressions being a thing that comes up or
Yes.
that pressure of
Absolutely.
being the representative. So it's
Hmm.
really interesting and it's really cool to get a
Yeah.
very different story from you. And I'm actually
Absolutely.
that's really lovely to hear. I'm glad your situation is so different.
Yeah, like
Uh,
whenever I talk about like a lot of things, like
yeah.
my situation, I would say like I'm pretty lucky in like more ways than one that like
Mhm.
I'm in an area where it's widely accepted to be queer. Like people, like a good chunk of people are willing to be listened. And
Yeah.
like my only like aggression was because like I was in my very first relationship was kind of with a transphobe. I'm not gonna hold you. It was really bad.
Ooh,
It was really bad.
that
That
doesn't
is
sound like microaggressions,
no, it
but
wouldn't.
No.
No, he faked being bi to like get with me.
huh. Oh God,
Oh, I'm
you.
so sorry.
No, that is straight up pure aggression.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
and
Glad you are
like
out of that situation, and it sounds like your current partner is actually. It sounds very healthy, and like you get to
Very much a
macroaggression. Yeah,
macroaggression.
I
Yes.
like the way it sounds like you're getting to really explore things together. That
Yeah.
is
yeah,
very, very lovely.
yeah, and
Yeah, but
both relationships are very like they're very, very much the opposite of one another, but for some reason they do parallel. The only reason why I say like they parallel was because I met both of them. Well, one the latest one came back to like visit me and also visit her dad, their dad and stuff like that, while the other one came to visit me. Like there's like it was like the visits do kind of mirror each other, but in a way where this is where I started with when it came to romantic relationships, and this is where I'm at currently, and I feel proud of myself with that.
Hmm.
I don't mean like they're horrible, both of them are like no. Like I drew
mm,
parallels to like the visits, to like the two
yeah,
visits, and I'm like, damn, I really did that.
right.
I kicked the shit to the curb and got treasure.
Totally.
Good. Yeah. I mean, I would bet. I'm sure that there's also many interesting conversations to be had. I'm
Yeah.
dropping a thing and saying let's not talk because we are 3
Yeah,
hours
we
in.
are
I'm
about
sure there are
three
many
hours and 10 minutes in.
interested and
So,
important conversations to be
yeah.
had about the uh, toxicities that happen
Yo,
with
thank you for the
relationships.
sub. Thank you so
But
Thank
much
you
for
for
the
the
sub.
supportables!
aw, that's very sweet, Duke. But yeah, so like definitely there's a lot of things we touched on that could have much longer conversations very clearly. But I'm gonna say thank you for having us. It's been a
Absolutely. It's
really
been really awesome.
Absolutely. Thank
wonderful
you for having
conversation.
us.
Um,
Absolutely. Thank you so
and
much again for
yeah.
jumping in at the very last minute. We are, 3 hours, 10 minutes in,
Oh my
roughly.
gosh.
So it
Yeah.
is probably a good spot to,
Yeah.
close out here. I've had a really great time chatting about, uh, aromanticism,
Oh,
amatonormativity, polyamory, and intersectionality, of course, as we've been chatting for the last little while on. I would like to, give both of you a chance to, kind of close out, remind us where we can find you on the socials, and then, mention, when the next episode will be. So I'll start with you this time, Kamianya. Where can we find you on the socials if we want to,
yeah.
want to find out more about you?
Yeah. All right. So, hi, I'm Kami or Anya, queer, aroace, non-binary, Jewish, disabled, neurodivergent streamer and academic with a PhD in linguistic anthropology. Um, I got my flow that time. My pronouns are they, them, because I can't remember if I said that right then. Don't think I did. I especially in my own streams, I try to hold a supportive discussion place where we can have all sorts of fun discussions or focus on the indie games. Oftentimes, I am very lucky to get to uh, um, preview or whatever the right term is. Play games very early on or just as they come out, and very rarely before they even come out. Um, that's fun. I also do academic streams occasionally, more makeup streams, and I focus a lot lately on mutual aid. So places to find me, Kami Anya on Twitch, Kami Anya 1 on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call that.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. Um, and I'm on a few other places, but right now I'm probably gonna have to put this as 2. Give me a moment while I have figure type this in.
No worries.
No worries.
Okay, there. I'm gonna ask if anyone who is interested can check out. So what I just linked is the mutual aid event I am currently doing, which is to get compression items, both gender affirming and disability affirming, to people who need them but cannot afford them. Um, that link tree has all the information, and it also links to myself elsewhere, so you can check me out more there too. So if you're
Awesome.
interested in helping out with that event at the end of the month or just learning more about it, that links to the Discord, that has links to me and my other organizers. pretty much that is the best way to find out all the stuff I'm doing right now.
And thank you so much again for jumping in at the very last minute. It's
I'm
been
so glad.
such a
Please,
pleasure.
yeah.
Yeah, it's been a very good conversation, and was one of the ones that I was hoping to get to join. So I was really glad to realize, wait a minute, I can do that.
Absolutely.
So
And you've talked so much about things that I didn't even know. So I learned a lot today myself.
Nice.
I have been tutoring and teaching since I was literally 14, so over 2
Heck
decades.
yes, we
Hell
learned a
yeah.
lot today.
Yeah.
And then I'll give you a chance to, kind of, remind us about your channel, what you do, and where we can find you on the socials, Sleepy Bunny.
Oh yeah, I'm Sleepy Bunny. I'm a non-binary slash agender little bun on the webs. Um I'm Demi Ace Arrow, and I'm a freelance artist. I actually graduated with my associates in graphic design this semester. Well, not this semester. In so spring semester. Yay, yippee! I'm going to marine biology, which is a 180. But I love cephalopods. The octopuses are so cute. Anyway, you can find me at sleepy_buni bunny. That's how you spell the name. That's how you can find me on any social. And if you try to
Perfect.
find me on Instagram, is sleepy_bunny_art. Yeah. I do pride bun designs. Like the ones I'm most proud of is the discrete pride flag designs. I didn't send like a couple of them in our this in the Discord server that we're in VCing right now. And I'm super proud of them. I can't wait to make more. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much
Yeah.
again for chatting with us today, Sleepy Bunny. And the next episode will be on Saturday. And we will be chatting about ideal relationships, and we'll be getting a couple of different perspectives. You'll be joining us again, Sleepy Bunny, and we'll also get
Mm.
the Demented Ravens perspectives. That will
Ooh,
be an
Raven's
early.
epic.
Sorry?
I said Raven is epic. I know Raven.
Yes,
So
Raven is absolutely amazing. That will be an earlier stream. It will be starting at 9 a.m. Eastern to allow for the time zone differences. So that'll be an early stream on Saturday the 17th at 9 a.m. episode 5, and we'll be chatting about ideal relationships.